Chapter 1945, The God of Decay, Part 1. Only 5 stocky warships emerged from the other side of the Stargate. Without any hesitation, they immediately launched an attack on the remaining fleet of the Xilu Empire. These warships, resembling ducks squatting on the ground, exuded an aura of formidable strength. They charged directly into the Xilu warships, wreaking havoc as they went. Simultaneously, they unleashed a barrage of laser fire from cannons mounted on both sides. The most striking feature of these warships was the colorful lasers they emitted. Though visually appealing, these lasers were deadly, dragging their targets into the abyss. These were the Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers, the new generation core battleships of the Principality of Dawn's navy, replacing the older Cole-class battlecruisers. The remnants of the Xilu Empire's fleet, already engaged in a fierce battle with the Eternal super aircraft carrier and its escort warships, were in no condition to withstand the onslaught of 5 Hell's Angels at their peak. Within 10 minutes of the firefight, a damaged Siri-class battlecruiser was sunk. The arrival of these powerful reinforcements shattered the morale of the Xilu fleet, which had been holding on by a thread. The remaining warships scattered in all directions, like birds and beasts fleeing a predator. General Lepoy's desperate commands fell on deaf ears as he watched helplessly while the last strength of the Xilu Empire was obliterated. A Hell's Angel-class battlecruiser approached the Yuriev-class cruiser, identified as the flagship of the Xilu fleet from intercepted communications. The intention was clear: capture General Lepoy alive. The time has come. General Lepoy's eyes swept over the senior Xilu officers around him, his tone grim. Long live the Xilu Empire! Long live the Xilu Empire! The officers echoed, their voices filled with defiance. Lepoy produced a syringe filled with a gray sludge-like substance and injected it into his neck. The others followed suit. A soldier collected the used syringes and disposed of them in the incinerator, ensuring no trace remained. As the Hell's Angel-class battlecruiser drew closer, Lepoy ordered his crew to surrender. The cruiser shut down its engines and lowered its shields, rendering it defenseless. The Marine Corps of the Principality of Dawn soon boarded and took all the crew members, including Lepoy, into custody. Handcuffed and shackled, Lepoy appeared drained of energy, but a faint smile played on his lips as he murmured, "Long live the God of Decay." The battle concluded swiftly. The arrival of the 5 Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers signaled to the Xilu people that the Stargate had been completed. This news crushed the last vestiges of their will to resist. Despite having 9 Shirui-class battlecruisers and over a dozen Yuriev-class cruisers left, the Xilu fleet had lost the will to fight. Most of the escaping warships were intercepted, surrendered, or sunk. The few that managed to escape posed no significant threat. Unbeknownst to the Xilu, the 5 Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers were the only reinforcements that could arrive within the next week. The hyperspace connection between the Stargate of the Levic planet and the Stargate of the Vathian planet, in the model sector on the other side, was, a week ago, the hyperspace fluctuations that terrified Admiral Lepic originated from that connection. Even with the use of the Stargate, it takes a week to travel from the planet Vathian to the planet Levic. The primary Stargates currently in use are still operational, but as the Vasari people deepen their research on phase technology, they will gain more knowledge to build advanced Stargates. These advanced Stargates can establish networks, travel faster, and even enable intergalactic communications. As Tang Xiao mentioned at the previous summit, building a network of Stargates throughout the galaxy is the ultimate goal. Therefore, before Shepard and their exploration fleet set off, a comprehensive plan was drawn up. A fleet is always on standby on the planet Vathian to prevent any accidents that may occur after the Stargate's construction is completed. Once the Stargates are connected, 5 Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers in combat readiness will be dispatched immediately. Additionally, there are material and troop reinforcement plans to help Shepard and the others establish a foothold in the unknown starfield. From the moment Admiral Lepic noticed the hyperspace fluctuations emanating from the Stargate and began preparing for an attack, to the appearance of 5 Hell's Angels-class battlecruisers in the sky at the height of the battle, there was a clear cause and effect. After the Stargate was completed, Shepard immediately sent a report to the Dawn planet. The department responsible for exploring unknown star fields would then make a decision and determine the next action plan. The results of this exploration would also be reported to Tang Xiao, although he usually wouldn't give instructions personally on such matters. Soon, the next action order from the Dawn planet was sent. The exploration fleet was to rest on the Levick planet, repair the damaged Eternal super aircraft carrier as soon as possible, establish a preliminary colony, form an alliance with the Piek people, and incorporate the Piek people as a subordinate race of the Principality of Dawn. In view of the series of anti-social, anti-civilization, and anti-human crimes committed by the Xilu people, the Principality of Dawn approved an extermination order against them, agreeing to completely wipe this race from the galaxy. After reading the exploration report, Tang Xiao personally sent a message asking Shepard to send the technological data and battery samples of the Xilu human body battery back to Dawn Planet for research. In response, Shepard personally explained the cruel, anti-civilization and antisocial nature of this technology and rejected Tang Xiao's request. Not only that, after the Stargate was completed, she personally supervised the destruction of all human batteries without sending back a single sample. Upon hearing this reply, Tang Xiao became furious and roared that he wanted to chop Shepard into pieces. However, he soon calmed down and let the matter of the human battery go. Despite this, he harbored a grudge against Shepard deep down. Chapter 1946, The God of Decay, Part 2. Shepard was fired. The reasons were twofold: the extermination of the Xilu people and the handling of human battery technology. In both instances, her decisions directly contradicted Tang Xiao's instructions. Regarding the Xilu people, Shepard believed that no matter how heinous the crimes committed by the Xilu Empire, the responsibility should fall solely on its senior officials. She argued that the civilians of the Xilu people were innocent and should not be punished for the actions of their leaders. However, officials from the Dawn Principality countered that the Xilu Empire had exterminated at least 7 races during its expansion, turning these races into human batteries and massacring tens of billions of people. The use of human batteries had become so ingrained in Xilu society that even civilians used them for mundane tasks like boiling water. In essence, every Xilu person was complicit in the genocide committed by their empire. In contrast, the Piak people, although they occasionally used human batteries, primarily relied on ordinary energy sources. Even in their warships, human batteries accounted for less than 1/3 of the energy used, and these were irreplaceable components based on specific technologies. Therefore, the Xilu people were deemed beyond redemption, and the order for their extermination was issued despite Shepard's objections. Few supported her stance, even within the exploration fleet, where many believed the Xilu people deserved to be eradicated. The second issue was the matter of human battery technology. Tang Xiao had ordered its transfer, but Shepard firmly opposed this. The exploration fleet shared her concerns, fearing that the Dawn Principality might become another Xilu Empire or give rise to similar regimes. Even the Piak people despised the technology, as they were often the ones forced into batteries when the Xilu ran out of other races. Before the Dawn Principality's instructions arrived, the fleet, with the help of the Piak people, had already begun to eliminate human battery technology. By the time Tang Xiao requested the technology, there was nothing left on Levi's Planet K. Shepard, known for her straightforward approach, took the matter personally and clashed directly with Tang Xiao. Although Tang Xiao was initially furious, he eventually let it go, as he was merely curious about the human battery technology and did not consider it crucial. However, he was still angered by Shepard's disobedience and promptly dismissed her. Now, Shepard is just a private on board the Normandy, with Ashley Williams taking over as the commander of the spacecraft. Shepard didn't mind the demotion, as the exploration of the unknown star field was a long-term mission. She had no intention of returning to Dawn Planet, and Tang Xiao, despite dismissing her, did not order her transfer back. This approach also demonstrated his stance. The Siru people were systematically sent away in batches. They were concentrated on one of the colonies occupied by the Siru and then executed via orbital bombardment. The entire process was controlled by robots with no human soldiers involved. Executing prisoners is no less harrowing than battlefield combat. Such organized extermination can have a profound psychological impact on the executioners, potentially turning them into cold-blooded killers or even lunatics. Such unstable elements must not be present in a team like the exploration fleet, which has already left its homeland. Admiral Lepik was imprisoned in a high-security facility on the planet Levik, along with the highest-ranking officials who had been captured. The plan was to send them back to Dawn Planet for a public trial, simultaneously promoting their capture as one of the achievements of exploring the unknown star field. After all, the elimination of the Shilu Empire was an act of justice for the Dawn Principality, and it was only natural to publicize it widely. However, since their capture, General Lepik and the other high-ranking officers had been in a state of depression, and the reason was unclear. This was not surprising to the soldiers guarding them. Falling from the Empire's highest military commander to a prisoner was a significant psychological blow, and it was normal for some to struggle with this drastic change. Lepik leaned against the wall, his body weak, letting out a moan. Suddenly, something resembling brown sludge began to flow from under his body. The sludge seemed alive, silently creeping along the corner of the wall to the cell door, slipping through the crack. The two guards standing at the door were oblivious to what was happening. They stood straight, staring outside the cell, unaware that the threat was coming from within. The sludge crept up their trouser legs, becoming so thin it was nearly invisible. Then it entered the ears of the two guards. The guards felt an itch in their ears. They scratched, but the itching sensation seemed to move to their heads, causing discomfort. Suddenly, they felt a sharp pain in their brainstems, and then all discomfort vanished. They muttered about feeling unwell, considering taking some medicine, and continued their watch. This phenomenon was not limited to Lepik. It also affected the senior officers captured with him. Streams of sludge flowed from their bodies, exiting the cells as if alive, seizing every opportunity to infiltrate anyone they encountered. Worse still, the sludge eventually reached a camp where 10,000 Siru people were imprisoned. The next day, soldiers arriving to change the guard noticed something was amiss. The soldier at the gate approached the guard box, but before the handover began, he realized something was wrong. The guard was standing in an odd posture, as if his body lacked strength. He looked careless, more like a drunken hooligan than a disciplined soldier. "What are you doing?" the soldier shouted angrily. Such behavior was a disgrace to the Fourth Civilization's strictly disciplined army. "Ah, I'm sick," the guard replied, his voice hoarse and unnatural. The soldier immediately became vigilant, stepping back. "What happened to you? Report immediately." "I." The guard gave a weird smile, and the next second, he lunged forward. End of chapter. Chapter 1947, The God of Decay, Part 2. "What are you doing?" "Stop!" The defensive soldier shouted in shock, retreating as his opponent lunged at him. The soldier on guard grabbed the other's head, trying to pry his mouth open. As the two struggled, another soldier behind them opened fire. Boom! With a sharp crack, the bullet from the N7 Valkyrie assault rifle pierced the head of the soldier on guard. However, instead of the expected death, the soldier's body exploded like a balloon. His skin tore apart like a thin film, releasing a torrent of sludge-like substance that splattered everywhere. The soldier entangled with him was drenched in the muck. "What the hell is this?" he cursed, disregarding military discipline. The other soldiers stared in stunned silence at the mud and the floating remnants of human skin. They couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Finally, someone snapped out of it and grabbed the communicator, reporting to the command center. "Report to headquarters. This is the V area of the prison. A suspected attack has occurred. We need reinforcements immediately. Send biologists and doctors." "Are you okay?" another soldier asked, dragging the mud-covered soldier away. "He exploded. Did you see it? His whole body just exploded," the soldier exclaimed, wiping his face, a mix of fury and horror in his eyes. "This stuff doesn't smell bad, but what is it?" Another soldier wondered, dipping a finger into the mud and sniffing it. The smell was slightly sweet, but its origin was a mystery. "I feel... Ugh, Not good, the mud-covered soldier groaned, retching but unable to vomit. He seemed to be in severe discomfort, clutching his throat. Suddenly, a noise echoed from inside the prison, and the heavy metal doors began to open. "Who opened the door?" the officer on duty yelled, enraged. This was a prison. The doors couldn't be opened without authorization. But there was no time to worry about who had opened the door. As it swung open, a mass of darkness and dense figures surged out. Guards, prisoners, and administrators alike, all with a single goal, rushing towards the exit. Some guards even wielded blaster pistols. "Quick, shoot! Stop them!" the officer commanded. The well-trained soldiers of the Dawn Principality didn't need to be told twice. They opened fire immediately. Da-da-da! Da-da-da! The N7 Valkyrie assault rifle spat out bursts of flames, launching dense steel needles at hypersonic speeds under supermatter electromagnetic acceleration. The bullets tore into the crowd, causing those hit to explode like balloons, releasing more sludge that surged forward like a flood. At that moment, 3 Banshee fighter jets flew overhead, descending to a lower altitude to survey the chaotic scene below. "Ground! This is Silver Eagle Y. What happened?" The pilot of the lead Banshee fighter asked, his voice tight with shock. "These people have gone mad. We don't know what's happening. Just fire, block them. Don't let them escape," the Army officer shouted back. "Oh my God, do you know how many people are down there?" the Banshee pilot asked, his heart sinking. "I don't know. I just know we can't let them get through," the officer yelled, and gunfire echoed through the communicator. "Tens of thousands of people," the Banshee fighter pilot muttered as he pressed the launch button. Whoosh! Whoosh! More than a dozen rockets descended from the sky, exploding among the crowds and turning them into a sea of sludge. "This is Silver Eagle Eye. This is Silver Eagle Eye. The prison is almost out of control. Requesting support. Repeat, requesting support." The Banshee fighter pilot shouted urgently into the communication channel. On the ground, soldiers who had come to change shifts, along with some pike guards who had arrived after hearing the commotion, had already established their positions. The prison gate, only about 8 meters wide, was a bottleneck. No matter how many people tried to rush forward, they couldn't break through the intense firepower. One soldier, initially splashed with mu, was still retching. After a moment, he vomited violently, expelling a torrent of brown sludge. Suddenly, he howled and lunged at his comrades, the sludge he had vomited following closely behind, enveloping an unsuspecting Pike guard from behind. The surprise attack caused the thin defense line to collapse instantly, and a large group of prisoners surged through the gate like a tidal wave. "Requesting support! Requesting support!" The Banshee fighter pilot in the sky continued to fire his rockets, his voice trembling with fear. "General, urgent report. There is a large-scale riot in the prison area, and there is a suspected biological threat." An intelligence officer ran quickly to the commander of the exploration fleet, Lieutenant General Hiru, shouting, "What? Order the surrounding troops to establish a defense line immediately. Do not let the riot spread." Lieutenant General Hiru responded without hesitation. 3 battalions have already been deployed, but there are not enough troops. The number of rioters is overwhelming. Additionally, the suspected biological and chemical threat is proving difficult to counter, the intelligence officer reported. Lieutenant General Hiru frowned deeply. The prison area was close to the Kryak Palace, and there were not many troops stationed there. The exploration fleet already had limited forces on Levik's planet. With the Sealers causing riots across the planet, the fleet's resources were stretched thin, focusing on the periphery. Footage from a drone was projected onto the command center's screen, showing the prison area as the epicenter of chaos. Countless people were pouring out, the streets filled with thick smoke, flames, and breached bunkers. It appeared that the surrounding troops had attempted at least 3 interception operations, all of which had failed. In the sky, more than a dozen Banshee fighters and over 50 Phantom fighters were providing fire support, but the sheer number of people on the ground rendered their efforts futile. Hundreds of thousands of rioters surged in all directions, completely unstoppable. Chapter 1948, Horrible Infection. Lieutenant General Hiru asked, "What is biochemical infection? Do you mean these people are infected?" "That's right," the intelligence officer replied, pulling up the combat video. The drone footage clearly showed the bodies of the infected exploding, releasing a large amount of living sludge. This sludge mingled with the infected, making it difficult to prevent further contamination. According to the video, those who came into contact with the sludge would soon have it burrow into their bodies, taking control within as little as 10 minutes and no longer than an hour. There was no doubt, the source of the infection was that sludge. In front of several defense lines established by the army, some wolf warriors equipped with flamethrowers were already clearing the mud. Once burned, the sludge quickly charred and carbonized, losing its vitality completely. However, there was still too much sludge. It was overwhelming, and the number of people it had infected was unknown. Now that the Air Force knew what to do, Banshee fighter jets began carrying incendiary bombs to clear the sludge in the infected area. "How many people are there in the prison area where the infection broke out?" Lieutenant General He Ru asked. Prison Area 5, which mainly holds serious criminals, has 12,000 guards, 450 office staff, and 2,000 handymen. The prisoners held there are mainly rioters captured during planet-wide disturbances, about 1,600 in total. But the biggest problem is... The intelligence officer's expression became solemn. Due to the execution of the extermination order, about 80,000 Silu people were temporarily resettled here, and all the guard troops were temporarily dispatched. Lieutenant General He Ru's expression also became grave. "So, did the infection start from the Shilu people?" "It's not confirmed yet, but it's very likely," the intelligence officer said. He Ru nodded and fell into deep thought. Although the extermination order was satisfying when issued, it was extremely difficult to carry out. The Shilu population had reached 10 billion, and more importantly, a large number of peak people also lived on planet Livik. This planet was an important advance base for the Dawn Principality. Blowing up the planet was not an option. With such a large population, methods like shooting and trap killing were no longer feasible for extermination. Moreover, the impact of exterminating a race with such a large population was extremely negative. No matter what this race had done, executing such an order was undoubtedly an act of inhumanity. Therefore, only a few people knew about the extermination order, and the process had to be kept strictly confidential. Until now, the Principality of Dawn had only arrested some Shilu people who launched rebellions on planet Levik and sent them to the colony for orbital bombing to eliminate them. This method was highly inefficient. In a week, less than 2 million people were executed. In the end, Tang Xiao and the senior officials of the Dawn Principality decided to let Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group handle the matter. Umbrella Pharmaceuticals would develop a virus to sterilize the Shilu people, allowing the race to die out naturally. But now, amidst this plan, such a terrible virus infection had broken out. If this virus originated from the Shilu people, then nearly 10 billion Shilu people on the entire planet were potential sources of infection. Looking at the living sludge, the consequences of 10 billion Shilu people being infected on planet Levik were unimaginable. "How many people are there in the virus spreading area?" Lieutenant General He Ru asked again. "There are a little more than 30,000 residents, and most of them failed to escape," the intelligence officer said. "The vast majority? In other words, some people have escaped?" a female voice interjected. The intelligence officer turned to look and saw a red-haired woman in an N7 combat uniform standing there. Judging by her armband, she was just a first-class soldier. This intelligence officer served O.N. the Eternal and did not know Shepard, but he was a major himself. How could he answer a soldier's question? However, he wasn't foolish. This type of ridicule could only be found in Xiao Bai's novels. He glanced at Lieutenant General He Ru and saw the Lieutenant General nodding at him, signaling for him to answer. So, the intelligence officer said, "After the infection broke out, we evacuated about 4,000 civilians." "Isolated?" Shepard asked again. "Isolated," the intelligence officer confirmed with a nod. Shepard frowned and then addressed Lieutenant General He Ru. "Seal the Stargate. No one is allowed in or out. This virus must not spread to the Principality itself." "The situation isn't severe enough to block the Stargate," the intelligence officer interjected. We only need to mobilize reinforcements from other parts of the planet and cooperate with aerial bombardment from warships to clear this infected area soon. But it will definitely affect our battle plans elsewhere, and therefore requires General He's approval. Shepard shook her head. No, the problem is very serious. We must seal the Stargate before the situation worsens now. The intelligence officer turned to look at Lieutenant General Hiru again, only to see the Lieutenant General nodding. Explain, he said. But this... The intelligence officer still wanted to argue. Shepard interrupted him directly. Think about it. When did this incident happen? I just read the report. It was during the defense change in the morning. And looking back, last night's defense change was normal. So, this large-scale infection affecting more than 100,000 people broke out overnight. What does it mean? The infection speed is very fast, and it is extremely contagious, the intelligence officer acknowledged, nodding. Shepard shook her head. The most deadly thing is concealment. She looked at Lieutenant General Hiru and continued. 80,000 Shilu people and 12,000 guards are not decorations. But there was no abnormality in the entire prison area last night. What does it mean? It means they were quietly infected. So how long is the infection period? How long is the incubation period? Do you know? If the incubation period is longer than 1 day, then if time continues to move forward, more people will come and go near the prison area, and maybe the virus has already spread to other places. Under such circumstances, if we don't seal the Stargate, do we really have to wait for the virus to spread to Dawn Planet? Lieutenant General Hiru's expression changed, and he said sternly, That's right. Hurry, block the Stargate. Immediately, send 5 warships controlled entirely by robots to guard the Stargate. No one is allowed to leave through the Stargate. Yes. The intelligence officer realized the seriousness of the situation. He answered loudly and ran out to make arrangements. Lieutenant General Hiru wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said, Fortunately, you reacted quickly. Otherwise, it might have caused a disaster. We need to report what happened here to Dawn Planet as soon as possible. He shook his head and sighed. This happened only after the Stargate was built. It's too passive. We can't give up on this Stargate. We can only fight against this virus. There are no absolute coincidences in the world, Shepard said. If the virus breaks out sooner or later, it must be manipulated by someone if it breaks out at this time. Judging from the timing, it is highly likely related to the counterattack of the remaining human fleet. Immediately conduct a thorough investigation of the detention situation of all prisoners of war this time, and focus on supervision. Lieutenant General Hiru nodded. No problem, I'll have someone make the arrangements. Although Shepard is currently only a first-class soldier, Lieutenant General Hiru respects all her opinions. After all, such a legend cannot be defined by mere military rank. Shepard became thoughtful and said, Actually, there's something I care about very much. Do you remember what happened when he first arrived in this star area? Yes, I remember. You attacked a Shilu outpost, which then attracted their warships, leading to the conflict, Lieutenant General Hiru replied. That's the problem, Shepard said, her expression serious. We now know that the Shilu people have exterminated all the alien races in this star region, leaving none behind. Additionally, the hyperspace in this unknown star region is very chaotic, making long-distance hyperspace navigation nearly impossible. So, she paused, her eyes narrowing in contemplation. What are these outposts guarding against? End of chapter. Chapter 1949, Source of Infection. So, you think the Shilu people built so many border outposts to guard against this thing? Lieutenant General Hiru pointed at the overwhelming mud on the screen. This is just a guess, Shepard replied. But we did find words like infection, transmission, and isolation in the incomplete documents at the outpost. The first 3 people who went to the outpost for reinforcements were on a cruiser. Their order was to destroy Mangal and prevent its spread. You mean this thing is Mangal? Hiru asked. Looking back now, we overlooked this information at the time. In fact, during the process of annihilating the Shilu Empire, we did not encounter anything related to infection or spread. I think maybe the Shilu Empire deliberately concealed it, Shepard said. Send technical personnel to carefully search the Xilu Empire's database and interrogate their senior officials to make sure we find out what this Mengal is. Lieutenant General Hiru nodded solemnly. At that moment, a staff officer approached and saluted both Hiru and Shepard. General, Battalions 24, 15, 16, and 19 have begun operations toward the prison area. The Black Iron Steadfast-class cruiser has entered the atmosphere and is preparing to provide fire support, the staff officer reported. Seal that area, use a large number of flamethrowers, and set up a high-voltage power grid to prevent the spread of the sludge, Hiru ordered. Yes, sir. General, the communication spacecraft has been dispatched to Dawn Planet, another officer reported. As required, a robot was dispatched. General, the Stargate has been sealed. No one is allowed to pass through it now. We have prevented 7 forced intrusions and shot down 3 spaceships. General, the biologists and epidemiologists are already in place. According to their requirements, we will set up a sterile laboratory on the Halberd-class light cruiser. Reports from various locations indicated that the suspected Mengal infection was being brought under control. In fact, this was indeed the case. A mere 100,000 infected people could not pose a significant threat under the combined firepower of the open space. However, when the exploration fleet interrogated the captured senior officials of the Xilu Empire, they found that the situation was not optimistic. It wasn't that Mengal's infection was so powerful, but rather that, out of the hundreds of senior officials interrogated so far, fewer than 10 knew about the existence of Mengal. And even those who knew about it had only heard of it and had no idea what it was. The only relatively useful information came from a former deputy official from the finance department of the Xilu Empire. He told Shepard, who was responsible for the interrogation, that the Xilu Empire had invested a huge amount in biochemical research over the past 10 years and had also built a large virus laboratory. Large virus laboratory? Where is it? Shepard asked. The official shook his head blankly. I don't know. I only know where the funds were flowing, but I don't know the specifics. Border outposts, they were to stop invaders. What kind of invaders? There are many. The Xilu Empire has a lot of enemies. Yes, if there is an abnormality from the outpost, our order was indeed to destroy the outpost directly. Why? I don't know. We were only responsible for the execution. The maintenance of the outpost was only done by robots. Ordinary people can't stay in that kind of place for a long time, right? It's normal. This was an interrogation statement from an officer. Mengal? I've heard of it. His Majesty the King and the others are very afraid of this. I guess it's... Shepard rubbed his forehead and turned to look at the ghost agent, Sen Luo, sitting next to him. Did you find anything? He asked. Sen Luo shook his head. This guy didn't lie. He sincerely believes that Mengar is a resistance force. Shepard glanced at the lengthy interrogation list and sighed. No progress. Mengar's message seems to have vanished without a trace. Sen Luo pointed to the list. I noticed something. Among our interrogators, there's a missing type of person. Shepard frowned. That's right, biologists. Not a single one. It's impossible that the Xilu Empire doesn't have biologists. Their technology for using human batteries would require biologists the most, so there's only one possibility, Sen Luo said slowly. They've been eliminated. Shepard's face turned grim. The senior officials of the Xilu Empire obviously wanted this Mengar to deliver a fatal blow to us before they died, and they seem to believe it can. Yes, that's what I'm most worried about, Shepard nodded. At that moment, a soldier approached. Sir, General Hiru has requested your presence. He said he found some abnormalities. There's no need to interrogate the remaining people. Lock them up for now. Let's go, Shepard ordered, leaving the interrogation room with Sen Luo. Back at the command center, Lieutenant General Hiru and Ashley Williams were waiting. Seeing Shepard, Hiru got straight to the point. We found a combat plan after raiding the outpost. The Xilu Empire? What did they do at that time? Shepard asked. They sent several squadrons to look for traces of us, Ashley Williams explained. But they obviously didn't find us. The most critical issue is not that. She handed a document to Shepard. Among the fleets sent out, 2 fleets did not return. Not only did they not come back, but in the subsequent series of battles, these 2 fleets disappeared without a trace. It's like they just vanished. So, there are still 2 fleets wandering outside? Shepard frowned. If it's just a fleet, it's not a big threat, but what I'm worried about is, why are they missing? If this is related to Mongar, then the problem is significant, Ashley Williams said. The Silu Empire has no foreign enemies in this area, so what could possibly swallow up 2 fleets silently? Shepard fell into deep thought. At that moment, an officer walked over and whispered a few words to Lieutenant General Hiru. Hiru stood up and announced loudly, "We found the laboratory." Chapter 1950, Umbrella's Intervention. In the outer orbit of Levik's planet, near the Stargate, a ripple suddenly appeared in the center of the ring-shaped structure. Moments later, a massive spacecraft emerged from the Stargate. This was unmistakably a Rookery Hook-class battleship, painted entirely in black. The enormous circular spacecraft, with a diameter exceeding 3,000 meters, disengaged from the Stargate and headed directly towards Levik's planet. On the hull of this Rookery Hook-class battleship, an enormous red and white umbrella-shaped logo was prominently displayed, signifying the identity of the visitors, Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group. In the command center of the Kryak Palace on the surface of Levik's planet, the communication prompt beeped incessantly, but no one answered. In a nondescript underground area of the Kryak Palace, several SCVs were busy clearing the collapsed ruins. Is this the laboratory that specializes in studying Mongar? Shepard asked, peering into the deep tunnel that had just been cleared. Lieutenant General Hiru nodded. I believe so. Since we couldn't extract any information from the interrogation, I decided to explore alternative methods. I dispatched a team to investigate the energy usage of the Kryak Palace. As expected, we discovered that the current energy consumption of the palace, even with all factories running, only accounted for 60% of the power supply, which is highly unusual. Shepard nodded in agreement. Yes, even with reserved backup power generation, this ratio is too low. Hiru continued. Therefore, there must be some facilities that are shut down, and these facilities must consume a significant amount of power. The team I sent found a large number of cables leading to this place. Shepard glanced at a sign unearthed from the ruins. It read, Laboratory 101, in Shilu characters. Let's go and take a look. Lieutenant General Hiru waved his hand, and a team of B-1 combat robots moved forward, entering the passage that had been dug out. A T-Series tactical robot monitored the movements of the B-1 combat robots and reported, according to the investigation, this laboratory was severely damaged, and nothing remains intact. Withdraw all combat robots immediately, a cold voice commanded from behind them. Shepard turned around to see a group of people approaching quickly. Leading them was a woman who appeared to be in her 20s. She had a stern face, short golden hair, and an air of efficiency. She wore a white coat over a white official jacket and a one-step skirt with brown stockings and black high heels. Her stride was steady and confident. Following her were 6 Special Forces operatives in tight-fitting black combat uniforms, gas masks, and tactical goggles, armed with various weapons. These operatives, both male and female, had different equipment and characteristics. The shoulders of their combat uniforms bore a variation of Umbrella's umbrella logo, with 3 letters below. USS Shepard stepped forward and asked, "Who are you?" The blonde woman interrupted her. "I understand that this is suspected to be Mongar's research site, and it is a first-level infection area. Remove those clumsy robots and seal off the entire area. Everyone on site should undergo immediate epidemic prevention detection." More Umbrella staff, clad in biohazard protective suits, arrived to cordon off the scene. Without a word, they began their tasks immediately, reflecting the woman's decisive nature. "Are you Shirley Birkin, the top director of Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group, here in person?" Lieutenant General Hu asked, surprised. "General He, all matters related to Mongar will be fully taken over by Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group from now on," Shirley Birkin declared. Birkin's voice was cold as she spoke. Behind her, a relatively short female Special Forces soldier handed over an authorization document. As Lieutenant General Hiru took the document, the special soldier swiftly turned her hand, revealing a device that she had pressed against Hiru's neck. Hiru felt a sharp sting, like a bee sting, and only then did he react. He covered his neck, ready to retaliate, but saw that the female Special Forces soldier had already completed the analysis on the universal tool on her wrist. "Blood components are normal, no infection detected," she announced. "General He, remember to take precautions next time you are near an infected area. Being locked in an isolation room wouldn't be ideal." Shirley Birkin said, "What about you? Since this is an infected area, why don't you have any protection?" Shepard asked coldly, looking at Shirley Birkin. "Because I won't be infected," Shirley Birkin replied confidently. At that moment, the female Special Forces soldier approached Shepard, shaking the detection device in her hand. "Get checked," she demanded, not waiting for Shepard's consent. She moved with a speed that was almost inhuman, aiming to stab Shepard's neck with the device. But Shepard was faster. He grabbed her wrist with a backhand twist, immediately subduing her. However, another special soldier moved with lightning speed, locking Shepard's wrist. The speed was astonishing. Shepard had to release the female Special Forces soldier and exchanged a few moves with the man in front of her, realizing his strength and speed were extraordinary, beyond that of ordinary people. "That's enough. Stop, Vector." The command came from another female Special Forces soldier, who appeared older and seemed to be the leader of the six-person team. She approached Shepard and said, "I respect you as a powerful and legendary warrior, Shepard. But here, you must abide by our rules and accept inspection." Shepard's eyes met hers, and for a moment it felt like lightning crackled between them. Then Shepard suddenly acted again, snatching the detection device from the short special soldier, placing it on his neck, pressing the button, and then returning the device. "Test complete. Blood components are complex, with nano-robots present. But no infection," the short special soldier reported, seemingly unfazed by the earlier confrontation, focused solely on her task. "I hope you, Umbrella, won't mess things up," Shepard snorted. Mongol, it's not that simple." "This is our area of expertise," Shirley Birkin replied coldly, then turned away, leading her team into Laboratory 101. Thanks to bookfriend 22212622435768 for the 200 starting coins. Chapter 1951. Everyone has their own thoughts. Entering Laboratory 101, Shirley Birkin peered into the dark space. A faint green light glimmered in her eyes, allowing her to navigate freely even in the pitch-black environment. Several other USS members switched on their tactical flashlights to survey the surroundings, while more Umbrella staff followed, carrying various tools. "Miss, we have located the built-in power supply and repaired the cutoff. Do you need us to turn it on?" a staff member inquired softly. "Disconnect the built-in power supply again and use our external power supply," Shirley Birkin instructed calmly. "Restart the host system with the external power supply. Take over all security systems, and then re-engage the internal power supply." "Yes, ma'am." Soon, lighting equipment was brought in, illuminating most of the laboratory's interior. The light revealed a completely devastated space. They stood in a massive reception hall where a statue, possibly of a former emperor of the Xilu Empire, stood in the center, alongside remnants of what might have been a front desk. Everything was charred, with burnt skeletons scattered on the ground, likely those of Xilu researchers. As they moved from the hall, they encountered numerous laboratories, all with doors sealed shut and interiors reduced to rubble. They've integrated the automatic firefighting system with the automatic destruction system. When a fire needs to be extinguished, water or fire foam is released. When destruction is required, deadly flames are unleashed, explained Rupert, the captain of the USS Delta team, known as Wolf Mother by her team members, as she walked behind Shirley Birkin. "If that's the case, the chances of finding clues are slim. Let's search for any blind spots," Shirley Birkin directed, scanning the surroundings. "Given the equipment here, it shouldn't consume so much power. Find a deeper area." "What do you think of Umbrella's actions, Shepard?" Lieutenant General Hiru asked as they returned to the command center. "They're hiding something from us and have no intention of letting us in on it," Shepard replied, turning to face Hiru. "I joined the exploration fleet shortly after I was awakened, so I don't know much about her." "What's she like?" "Shirley Birkin?" Hiru frowned. "She joined the Fourth Civilization at a very young age. Her parents founded the Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group. However, her father, William Birkin, a medical professional, died in an accident, and her mother, Annette Birkin, became comatose. Shirley Birkin herself led the rapid development of Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group, making it one of the largest companies in our country. So she's quite formidable, Shepard remarked, raising an eyebrow. Hiru nodded in agreement. Indeed, it's surprising that such a formidable person would personally come to this unknown star field to participate in the research of this unknown entity, Mongol Mengol. What do you think she's hiding from us? Her purpose. Shirley Birkin wants to claim Mongol Mengol for herself. They're already studying the T-virus and Veronica virus, yet they're still not satisfied, Shepard said gravely. But what worries me most is that they might not know more about Mongol Mengol than we do. If they act recklessly, it could lead to significant trouble. Shirley Birkin's aggressive stance also prevents us from sharing more information with her, Lieutenant General Hiru sighed, shaking his head. That's not surprising. She wants to push us aside. Considering the human battery technology we destroyed, it's understandable why she's acting this way, Shepard said. I think it's also because of me that Planet Dawn no longer trusts us. This is not your fault, Shepard. You did what you had to do, Lieutenant General Hiru said, gazing out the window into the distance. Actually, even though I voted in favor of exterminating the Xilu people, it doesn't mean I believe it was the right thing to do. 10 billion lives. No matter how heinous the Xilu Empire is, it can never justify exterminating an entire race. He turned back to Shepard and continued, I voted in favor from the standpoint of a fleet commander. If the Xilu people are not exterminated, we will never have peace on the Levic planet. Sometimes you have to go against your conscience to make the decisions you must make. He sighed deeply. For me, I can only keep telling myself that the number of races slaughtered by the Xilu people is far more than 10 billion. Maybe this will make me feel better. Shepard nodded and said, General He, I want to follow the Normandy and continue to explore the unknown star territories. Hiru frowned. Do you know how dangerous it is out there now? The remnants of the Xilu Empire, as well as the Mengar, whose whereabouts are unknown, pose huge threats. Not to mention, the Xilu Empire destroyed so many of their documents that we don't even know the full extent of their empire. He clicked on the holographically projected star map, which was shrouded in darkness. It's very likely that if you venture out, you'll encounter a planet still loyal to the Xilu Empire. Moreover, the repair work on the Eternity supercarrier, we need to build a new space dock for Eternity before we can start repairs, which will take at least 6 months. Shepard replied, This is a risk that must be taken. If we stay on Livic's planet, we will never find the real information about the Mengar. You should understand that from the information we have received so far, the Xilu Empire did a very good job of containing the invasion of the Mengar. In other words, the real threat of the Mengar will not be reflected in the Xilu Empire. Lieutenant General Hiru nodded. What you said makes sense. Then at least let a few Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers accompany you. The Hell's Angel is a battleship, not an exploration spacecraft. It cannot support continuous exploration in an environment without supplies for a long time. Bringing the Hell's Angel would just be a burden. The Normandy is enough, Shepard said. Hiru reluctantly agreed. This trip is very dangerous. I will give instructions to Ashley Williams and the others. Shepard shook her head. I'll tell them. This trip is indeed very dangerous, so if they don't want to go, I won't force them. Chapter 1952, Umbrella's Actions. A large number of staff from Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group, led by B-1 combat robots, began to clean up the V area of the prison where the infection had previously broken out, as well as the surrounding outer areas. This area was completely sealed off, from the simplest barbed wire fence to the advanced laser fence, creating an impenetrable barrier. Additionally, Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group employed the latest technology, ultrasonic guardrails. These guardrails appear invisible, but use directional high-frequency sound waves to create a barrier. Unlike laser fences, these guardrails have no gaps. Any object that touches the ultrasonic guardrail will be severely damaged by the high-energy and high-frequency sound waves, and smaller objects may even disintegrate instantly. The workers entered the infected area, finding charred remains of Mongol everywhere. These remains looked like sludge, but, after being scorched, resembled burned organic matter, emitting an inexplicable smell. The protective clothing worn by the staff was made of biological materials, without any gaps, completely isolating them from any virus invasion. They commanded the B-1 combat robots to search every inch of the area to ensure no Mongol had slipped through the net. They did find some. All the Mongol samples were placed into sealed glass vessels for preservation and then brought back to the laboratory for analysis. Since the arrival of Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group, they had taken over all research on Mongol. The biological laboratory previously established by local biologists on a double-blade-class light cruiser had also been completely taken over. However, the main research work was carried out on the Black Rookery Hook-class battleship brought by Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group. This battleship, named Raccoon by Grand Duke Tang Xiao himself, housed the most advanced biological, genetic, and virus laboratories, all equipped with state-of-the-art equipment and elite personnel. The battleship had been modified so that the ring-shaped hull around it served as the laboratory area. Each laboratory was independent and even detachable. In case of an issue, the battleship could immediately discard the affected laboratory to prevent serial infections. At the same time, Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group established strict protection around Laboratory 101. Any personnel entering or exiting were subject to the strictest inspections. Following Shirley Birkin's instructions, the team was also preparing to organize this laboratory as a temporary place to process the samples. All the burned facilities were cleared, and the charred corpses were piled on the other side. After careful testing to confirm there were no traces of Mongol inside, they would be destroyed. At this moment, Shirley Birkin was in the deepest part of Laboratory 101, watching 3 SCVs dig through a severely collapsed passage. A technician approached her and said, "Miss Shirley, the ultrasonic fence we set up around the V area of the prison has experienced 127 collisions, all of them underground." Shirley Birkin frowned, her face becoming grim. "What did you say? Underground? Does that mean Mongol might have gone underground?" It is not yet certain whether these collision phenomena are really caused by Mongol, or they may be some creatures living underground. However, we cannot deny this possibility, the technician replied, clearly worried. Fortunately, we have the ultrasonic fence. The ultrasonic waves also act underground, otherwise it would be possible for Mongol to spread unchecked. Shirley Birkin's expression hardened as she considered the implications. We need to intensify our efforts, ensure that every possible escape route is sealed and monitored. We cannot afford any mistakes. The technician nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Yes, Miss Shirley, we will double our efforts and ensure that the perimeter is secure. As the team continued their work, the sense of urgency was palpable. The threat of Mongol spreading underground added a new layer of complexity to their mission, but with the advanced technology and dedicated personnel of Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group, they were determined to contain and eradicate the infection. Increase the power of the ultrasonic fence and extend its range deeper underground. Establish a new secondary infection area 200 kilometers outside the V area of the prison and monitor it strictly. If manpower is insufficient, deploy the army. If the army is not enough, use combat robots. Shirley Birkin commanded sternly. Send a new round of reinforcement requests to the headquarters. I need combat robots here. 1 million, 10 million, the more the better. Also, it's best to have the Geth come over. We need the Grand Duke to step in. Understood. I'll handle it immediately, replied Rupert, the captain of the USS Delta team. He added, additionally, I suggest dispatching a team of experts to transform the ultrasonic fence into an ultrasonic weapon and then conduct a comprehensive sweep of the prison's V area. Agreed, Shirley Birkin nodded. She then turned and asked, what's the status of the exploration fleet? Shepard took the Normandy and set off alone. He mentioned he was preparing to enter deep space to find the source of Mongar, reported a short female USS member with an oriental face and 4 eyes. Her judgment is sound. Based on the information we have so far, It is indeed difficult to find anything related to the origin of Mongar in the Xilu Empire, Shirley Birkin acknowledged. Should we intervene in Shepard's exploration? Looper inquired. No. They are the professionals in exploration. There is no need for us to waste resources in this area. And Shirley Birkin looked towards the SCV construction site with a serious expression. I am very sure that the Xilu Empire has left something here. With a loud crash, an SCV penetrated the collapsed structure, revealing a deep elevator entrance. The elevator car was missing, leaving only a dark hole exuding cold air. Let's go, Shirley Birkin pointed to the entrance of the cave. I'll go down first. This should be our job. Looper tried to stop her. It's different now, Shirley Birkin said. She approached the elevator entrance, dropped a burning rod to gauge the height, and then climbed down directly along the steel cable. It was unimaginable that someone like her, dressed in formal attire, holding a high position, and looking like a young beauty, could possess such skills. The USS Delta team, led by Looper, followed closely behind. They climbed down the elevator shaft for about 30 meters before reaching the bottom. Turning on their high-energy flashlights, they saw a large number of strange-shaped devices around, with spherical glass containers installed above them. In those containers that were still intact, there was a large amount of brown sludge. Mongar. A sneer appeared on the corner of Shirley Birkin's lips. Haha, as expected. The Xilu Empire also wanted to control this thing. Ha! Be careful, some containers inside have been broken. Victor's voice came from the front. At that moment, a black shadow suddenly rushed over from behind Shirley Birkin. Chapter 1953, G-Virus Perfect Adapter. The black shadow moved with incredible speed, almost instantly pouncing on Shirley Birkin from behind. No one knew where this thing had come from. However, at that moment, almost everyone present reacted. The USS member closest to Shirley, Ghost, equipped with a telephoto tactical eyepiece, acted immediately. He moved swiftly, his tactical dagger slicing through the black shadow. However, the attack failed. The dagger cut through the shadow, but it did not affect its movements at all. Although a piece was severed, the remaining part still rushed towards Shirley Birkin. Shirley Birkin's reaction, though different from ordinary people, was still slow. The black shadow wrapped around her shoulders before she could fully react. Only then did she see that the shadow was actually a large, living mass of sludge. Mongol, she exclaimed. As soon as the sludge entangled Shirley, it began to move, trying to penetrate her pores and drill into her nose, ears, eyes, and any other openings. However, it failed. Shirley reacted quickly, grabbing the lump of sludge with her backhand. Her arms seemed to transform, with countless fine barbs growing from her skin, allowing her to grip the slippery sludge with her bare hands. The sludge struggled, but to no avail. It then tried to split, but its body flowed down from Shirley's fingertips like thin soup, falling to the ground and turning into a lifeless pile of mud. A large amount of G-Virus had been injected from the barbs on Shirley's palm. Shirley Birkin was the only perfect adapter of the G-Virus in the world. Although Tang Xiao had ordered the cessation of G-Virus development, Shirley's ability to control the virus had been increasing day by day as she grew. She was gradually realizing her father William Birkin's goal, a life form that could evolve infinitely, a god. The G-Virus was known for its violent and erratic mutations, constantly evolving and adjusting itself according to subtle environmental changes. This often resulted in losing the direction of evolution, ultimately becoming a mass of seemingly powerful but meaningless rotten meat. However, Shirley did not have this problem. Despite having an astonishing amount of G-Virus in her body, she maintained her human form, making her superior to countless T-Series virus evolutions. Looking down at the ball of mud on the ground, Shirley said calmly, "Defense mechanism. Once out of control, it dies immediately to prevent chain infection." Four Eyes turned back and asked, "You want to use the G-Virus to control these Mongol? We don't currently know its infection mechanism. It's known that Mongol does not affect DNA. I am trying to use the injection of the G-Virus to cause Mongol to evolve disorderly. Once the evolution occurs, we can deduce the secret of its body from the evolved form. What I mean by control is actually making Mongol lose control of its own cells," Shirley explained calmly. This mechanism is not like that of ordinary viruses, Four Eyes noted. Ahead, flames flickered as other USS members dealt with the Mongol that had escaped from the container. It seemed this area was the core zone where the Xilu Empire stored and studied Mongol. Near the elevator shaft, Umbrella staff, with the help of SCV, had installed a simple elevator. People began to descend, preparing to take over the place, continue the Xilu Empire's research, and receive their findings. "I feel like something is wrong here," said Looper, the most experienced member of the USS, his intuition tingling. "The equipment is wrong," Shirley Birkin said calmly. "If it's just a container like this, it shouldn't consume so much power." And what did he say? The Xilu Empire deleted everything about Mongol. The conspiracy behind it may be to hope that Mongol will destroy us all. "You can't do it with all these bottles," Looper said, looking around. At that moment, the ground suddenly shook slightly. Looper's pupils contracted, and he shouted, "Get out of here immediately. This is a trap." However, it was too late. The ground of the entire space suddenly collapsed, spreading across the room in a short time. The containers holding Mongol fell one after another. It was as if the earth was shattering, catching everyone off guard. The members of USS grabbed onto anything they could to stabilize themselves, but failed. Only Victor, the most agile, climbed up the wall and grabbed a cable on the ceiling. Countless pieces of gravel and equipment fell, but strangely, there was no sound of heavy objects hitting the ground below. Several Umbrella staff fell, screaming, and their cries stopped abruptly after a few seconds, as if something had covered their mouths and noses. Cian unscrewed a burning rod and threw it down. The light from the burning rod revealed an even larger space below, filled with Mongol. Below them was a lake formed by the silt of Mongol. At that moment, all 6 members of the USS Delta team were caught by tentacles and hung in the air. These tentacles grew out of Shirley Birkin's back. Several other tentacles clung to the ceiling with suction cups, supporting their weight. "Once this amount of Mongol is released, I'm afraid the entire planet will not be spared," Looper said with lingering fear as he looked at the endless mud below. The sludge was still squirming, seemingly trying to form tentacles like Shirley Birkin's to attack them, but its deformation ability was limited. "We should apply for orbital bombing and blow everything up here." "Ha!" USS blasting expert Beltway laughed. "No need. Increase the number of ultrasonic guardrails and isolate this area," Shirley Birkin said calmly. "This is a very rare large-scale collection. I think it is very likely that this scale will produce qualitative changes and form some interesting phenomena." "Even I think you're playing with fire, Miss Shirley," said Looper. "Scientific research is essentially playing with fire." "Planet Livik, we can afford to sacrifice," Shirley Birkin replied. End of chapter. Chapter 1954, Claiming to be God. But after all, there is a Stargate, and the Stargate that cost a lot of money to build cannot be shut down because of Mongar. Therefore, I also suggest applying for orbital bombing, Looper said. Shirley Birkin closed her eyes and thought for a moment. However, at this time, a strange voice suddenly came. "Ah, Stargate. What is a Stargate? Let me guess, a way of interstellar travel, different from hyperspace lanes." This time, even Shirley Birkin, who had been extremely calm throughout the whole process, suddenly shook her body, and she looked down with an expression of disbelief. Yes, the source of the sound was below. That large lake-like silt, Mongar. Several heads suddenly popped up from the large sludge. They were the Umbrella staff members who had fallen before. They were covered in mud, and their protective clothing was torn. A tentacle-like thing protruded directly from the mud and penetrated into the back of their heads. Then, driven by these tentacles, these people slowly rose into the air, more than 10 meters below Shirley Birkin and others. They spoke in unison. Is it weird? To see a being who is completely different from you, but possesses wisdom. The voices of these people were synchronized perfectly, as if one person was speaking. I just didn't expect that viruses have the ability to speak. Shirley Birkin quickly calmed down. You call me a virus, which shows that you don't realize who the existence you are facing is, Mongar said. Don't worry, I'll find out soon, Shirley Birkin said calmly. I think I will learn a lot from you. Oh no, you have made a huge mistake. Mortals should not touch the realm of gods, Mongar said, its voice full of teasing. It's very interesting. A sneer appeared on the corner of Shirley Birkin's mouth. She stretched out her fingers, and her nails suddenly extended, glowing with a faint blue light. Then, a drop of blue liquid fell from her fingertips, accurately landing on one of the controlled staff members. The staff member suddenly let out a scream, and his body twisted violently, as if it had been flattened and rounded by countless hands. After a while, the man's body began to twitch crazily again. Mongar's tentacles flicked, throwing the man like a cannonball towards Shirley Birkin. However, the tentacles on Shirley's body were more flexible, and they rolled the person up in one swift motion. At the same time, other tentacles also led her and the USS Delta team towards the elevator shaft. Understanding Shirley Birkin's intentions, all members of the USS team immediately opened fire. Ta-ta-ta! The submachine guns in their hands fired wildly. Beltway dropped powerful bombs, and Four Eyes fired injection guns filled with T-virus at the bottom. There was no need for any aiming, because beneath them, the entire lake was made of the silt of Mongar. The muddy lake churned violently in the face of powerful firepower, like boiling water. But the few controlled umbrella staff remained unmoved, as if the firepower hitting the mud had nothing to do with them. Oh, how ignorant, how irritable. In the long history of your species, it is such arrogance that has caused you to encounter countless destructions. Believe me, I have had a long enough time to watch you, Mongar said with a sneer. But Shirley Birkin ignored it completely and just left with the members of USS. After coming out of the elevator shaft, she put down the others and threw the body of the staff member that was rolled up to the other side. The tentacles growing out of Shirley Birkin's back quickly retracted and disappeared, leaving only the torn body. Her official uniform was still on her body. A female staff member immediately came over and helped her into new clothes. During the whole process, the staff member turned a blind eye, as if the horrific mutation on Shirley just now was just a common occurrence. The team immediately moved to seal the body and prepare it for study. I think that the Neng has something to say, Looper remarked as he approached. In its current state, it can't communicate effectively. Given its claim of being a god, there's no need to continue this conversation, Shirley Birkin responded. The plan remains unchanged. Completely seal this place off. I will study it slowly. That piece of mud can actually talk. Aren't you surprised? The burly Beltway exclaimed in his deep voice. I just find it interesting, Shirley Birkin replied calmly. I suggest we bring over a Cole-class battlecruiser and position it in synchronous orbit. At the same time, we should open the top of the laboratory where Mongar is located to reserve a window for orbital bombing. If the situation deteriorates, we can immediately launch an orbital bombardment, Rupert suggested. Shirley Birkin pondered for a moment and asked, Is there a Cole-class ship available? There are only 5 Hell's Angels, and the Dawn planet is probably not willing to send more of these new battleships. Most of the subsequent reinforcements are second-line battleships like the Cole-class and the Higra-class. There are even a few Generous-class ships, Rupert explained. Then we'll proceed as you suggest, Shirley nodded. Beep, beep, beep. A siren blared on the bridge of the Normandy. Hey, boss, the unmanned probe has made a discovery. The spacecraft pilot Jeff Morrow, nicknamed the Clown, shouted. Captain Ashley Williams walked over. She looked at the screen and waited for a moment. When Shepard arrived, she asked, What did you find? Her actions clearly showed her obedience and respect for Shepard. Even though Tang Xiao had dismissed her, Shepard was still the real boss in their minds. The probe didn't dare to get too close, but the feedback indicates the presence of a capital ship-level spacecraft, Jeff Morrow reported. Shepard frowned and looked out through the porthole. The Normandy was hiding in the shadow of a planet's satellite. From the planet's surface, especially the night hemisphere, city lights were clearly visible. This was undoubtedly a planet with civilization. Considering that the Xilu Empire had defeated and exterminated all surrounding civilizations, it was clear that this planet was also part of the Xilu Empire. This explained their caution, not even using a cloaking device to fly up and detect it directly. Capital ship level? Shepard frowned. The Xilu Empire's main fleet should have been annihilated, Do they still have remaining capital ships? Could it be those two missing squadrons? Ashley Williams suggested solemnly. Can they match the numbers, clown? Well, at least the number of capital ships can be determined. 3. Judging from the size, they should be Surui-class battlecruisers. Yes. Jeff Morrow confirmed. Shepard thought for a moment and said, pull the probe closer, enter the optical detection range, and scan directly. You have to be sure about this. The opponent is a battleship, and their sensor power far exceeds ours, Jeff Morrow cautioned. Chapter 1955, The Legion. It doesn't matter. Let the detector pass by, Shepard said confidently. If my judgment is correct, they shouldn't be able to detect it. Jeff Morrow still seemed skeptical. He shook his head and replied, all right, but I'll be ready to escape just in case. Under Jeff Morrow's remote control, the unmanned probe emerged from behind an asteroid and flew directly towards the planet without any attempt at concealment. In such a scenario, the enemy's capital ship could easily detect its presence unless they were completely blind. However, the situation on the planet's periphery became fully visible. 3 Sirui-class battlecruisers and 20 small to medium-sized battleships comprised the entire fleet. Judging by the scale, it was one of the 2 missing fleets of the Sirui Empire. Surprisingly, even as the unmanned probe continued to approach, the fleet showed no reaction at all, as if they hadn't noticed it. Moreover, the probe didn't even receive any radar waves, indicating that the enemy hadn't activated their active sensors. What are they doing? Taking a vacation? Jeff Morrow was utterly confused. They've been infected by Mongar, Shepard said calmly. According to our understanding, the infected retain some intelligence but not much. Staying vigilant and immediately activating the radar are beyond their capabilities. How do you know? Ashley Williams asked, equally curious. Communication, Shepard replied, tapping on the communicator. Ashley Williams suddenly realized, I get it. I thought something was off before, but I didn't expect the problem to be this. Ladies, if you could speak in the standard language of the Fourth Civilization, I'd be very grateful, Jeff Morrow said, still confused. Since we arrived on this planet, we haven't intercepted any communications, Shepard explained. From an outer space perspective, there are at least 4 large-scale cities on this planet. A city of this size should have complex communications, with a large amount of civilian communications being exchanged, most of which wouldn't be heavily encrypted. Ashley Williams added, but since we've been here, we haven't intercepted a single communication. What does that mean? Jeff Morrow finally understood. It means there's no communication being sent out at all on this planet. I get it now. If they're infected by Mongar, they wouldn't need communication. Shepard looked at the planet through the porthole window with a serious expression. I can already imagine the situation on the surface. All the lights are on as usual. Countless zombies are walking the streets, and there's silence everywhere, like a world of death. Then, what should we do now, Shepard? Ashley Williams asked. I want to go to the surface of the planet to conduct a reconnaissance. What do you think? Shepard asked. Ashley Williams smiled slightly. Don't talk to us in such a questioning tone, Shepard. That's not like you. She then removed Shepard's private armband and replaced it with her captain's armband. You'll always be our boss, Shepard. In a team, if there's no strong leader and everything has to be discussed, nothing will ever get done. The captain's armband wasn't securely attached and fell, but Shepard caught it. She gripped the armband tightly and nodded. Then she said loudly, Normandy, activate the cloaking device and prepare for battle. We land. Mongar. Tang Xiao frowned as he read the report in front of him. It was a report from Shirley Birkin, detailing some information about Mongar. In addition to their research on the samples they had collected, they also noted that this entity possessed intelligence. As more and more people were interrogated, another word appeared before them, the God of Rot. Among the senior officials of the Xilu Empire, there was a whispered nickname for Mongar, the God of Rot. This moniker suggested that Mongar was not merely a virus, but something far more insidious, even mystical. Recent research by Shirley B. Erkin had begun to reveal that Mongar was, in fact, a highly complex life form, defying simple classification as a virus. Tang Xiao pondered this revelation. In all his knowledge of the Star Wars universe, he had never encountered anything like Mongar Mongol. This absence indicated that its destructive power was not significant enough to alter the main plot of Star Wars. "We come at your call, our allies," a voice interrupted his thoughts. Tang Xiao turned to see a Geth individual entering his office. This Geth seemed different from the others, not just in physical strength, but in presence. "Are you a special individual?" Tang Xiao inquired. "Yes, we are individuals specially created for the exploration of unknown star fields. Our program carries dozens of times more data than ordinary Geth, enabling us to conduct research and maintain wisdom even in distant, unknown regions," the Geth replied. "You can call us Legion." Tang Xiao nodded approvingly. "Very good. You will accompany the next batch of reinforcements to Levick Planet and assist Shirley Birkin with her research on Mongar Mongol. She specifically requested help from the Geth, so she must have a reason." Additionally, he hesitated, his expression betraying some reluctance. "If something happens to Shepard, you need to assist her as well." "Understood. We will fulfill your request, ally. We are also very interested in Mongar Mongol," Legion responded. Tang Xiao nodded again, signaling the army to set off. He then took out his communicator and connected to another line. "What is the status of the second exploration fleet? Have you contacted the Chiss?" "Not yet, Your Majesty. Any questions?" came the reply. "If you contact the Chiss, ask them directly if they know about Mongar Mongol," Tang Xiao instructed. Chapter 1956. The Fog Gradually Clears, Part 1. "Yes, Your Majesty, we will pay attention," the voice on the other end of the communication assured. Tang Xiao put down the communicator and turned his attention to the holographic star map in front of him, deep in thought. The map displayed the direction of the unknown star field. Besides the mark of the first exploration fleet on the planet Levick, there was another mark in the northern region of the Milky Way, the second exploration fleet. This fleet had departed from the planet Makito, supported by the Fourth Group and the Interstellar Banking Association. The flagship of this fleet was also an Endless-class super aircraft carrier, Ship Number 3. Initially, there were no plans to build many of these super carriers. Of the first three constructed, one was given to Severance Tan in the Mandalorian sector, another was assigned to Shepard's first exploration fleet, and the third was with the second exploration fleet. Unlike the first exploration fleet, which was venturing into the unknown, the second exploration fleet had a clear objective: to establish contact with the Chiss. They had gathered all available information about the Chiss from Severance Tan. Unfortunately, due to the internal family conflict that led to the destruction of the Sever family, Tan had escaped and couldn't provide the exact location of the Chiss. Thus, the second exploration fleet had to search meticulously. As a powerful civilization with significant influence, traces of Chiss activities should not be hard to find. Now, due to the Mongar Mongol issue, the second exploration fleet also needed to assist. Ideally, they would find the Chiss, the local power in the unknown star field. Meanwhile, the first exploration fleet was heading towards Normandy. Shepard and his team had landed on the planet. From the messages they found, they learned that this planet was called Kruda. In the cities occupied by Mongar Mengar, there were indeed dead-eyed Silu walking corpses everywhere, aimlessly wandering without any response to the outside world. Shepard and his team activated their tactical cloaking devices, remaining undetected. Observing the walking corpses, Shepard fell into deep thought. "I think something is a little strange." "What's wrong?" Ashley Williams asked. "What is the purpose of Mongar Mengar?" Shepard pondered aloud. "Eat, strengthen itself, evolve? None of these." "Didn't it control so many people?" Ashley Williams questioned. "What is it doing with so many people?" Shepard asked again. "Expanding its population," Ashley Williams suggested uncertainly. Shepard shook his head. "No, if it were just about expanding its population, these walking zombies should be very busy. I noticed that none of the small animals on the planet have been infected. In other words, Mongar Mengar has no interest in small animals. If it truly wanted to expand, it would use these people to plunder more resources. However, these people seem to be left to their own devices, without any instructions, not even to rest. This is not normal. Perhaps only intelligent beings are on Mongar Mongol's diet?" Shepard pointed to the infected Silu people in front of them. So now that it controls these intelligent creatures, has it done anything? Nothing. That's why I find it strange. Mongar Mongol's behavior is not like that of a creature acting on instinct. While they were discussing in low voices, the ghost agent Sen Luo, who was on guard at the rear, suddenly whispered, "Look over there. A spaceship has taken off." He adjusted the tactical eyepiece on his helmet, conducted a preliminary scan of the spacecraft, and then said, "A civilian spaceship, very inconspicuous. It might be heading towards Levi's planet, or perhaps another planet inhabited by intelligent beings. I think this is why Mongol is so difficult to defend against. They spread in this manner, and unless you completely blockade a planet, preventing even a single spacecraft from entering, you can't stop them. But such a blockade would not only waste a lot of troops, but also cripple the planet's economy," Ashley Williams explained to Shepard. "So you see, they still have a purpose," she added. "You've reminded me of something," Shepard said thoughtfully. "What kind of creature would target another species with such a clear objective? Humans, in times of war, yes, Mongol seems to act in a similarly intelligent manner. Would intelligent creatures wander around aimlessly like this?" Ashley questioned. "This is exactly what I don't understand. Anyway, let's continue exploring," Shepard decided. The group moved towards other areas, hoping to find something different. As they approached the outskirts of the city, they suddenly heard gunfire. Everyone became alert and looked towards the source of the noise. "Is there anyone who isn't infected?" Shepard and the others exchanged glances and quickly ran in that direction. Sure enough, a small town came into view. The town was surrounded by walls made of various temporary materials, like cars and steel plates. On top of the wall, several figures, along with some Shilu battle robots, were shooting downwards. Hundreds of infected individuals were rushing towards the wall, but were quickly repelled by the intense firepower. Countless bursts of sludge erupted, flowing towards the rear as if alive, and then entered the bodies of those not participating in the battle. The bodies of these individuals swelled noticeably, becoming as bloated as balloons. "What's going on in this town?" Ghost Agent Senluo asked in a deep voice. Mongol has infected at least millions in the city center. They could flatten this place just by stepping on it. After turning into sludge, they penetrate everywhere. Such a simple wall can't stop them at all, right? At that moment, more figures emerged from the group of infected. They appeared to be women and children of the Shilu people. Although to Shepard and the others, every Shilu person looked the same, the people in the town clearly recognized them. A burst of crying began. It was evident that the women and children walking over were relatives of some of the survivors in the town. "What is it planning, Mongol?" Shepard frowned as he observed the scene. End of chapter. Chapter 1957, The Fog Gradually Clears, Part 2. "Oh, look how sad you are crying. It seems that you know her?" A female Shilu-infected person suddenly spoke. Her voice was hoarse and dull, not like it came from vocal cords, but more like some kind of airbag. "You devil! I'm going to kill you!" Several Shilu survivors on the city wall were extremely angry. They picked up their weapons, but still did not pull the trigger. "Haha, hurry up and shoot? Kill your daughter. Kill your wife. In this way, the hatred in your heart will be alleviated, right?" The Shilu-infected person sneered. Then it took a step forward and suddenly ripped off one of its hands. Brown sludge flowed out from the broken part of the arm. "Look, I have eaten all of your daughter's body. It's hard for me to comment on the taste, but I can only say that for a Shilu person, this is a slow and painful process." As the Shilu-infected person spoke, it lowered its head, bit off a finger from the torn-off arm, and then ate it. "No!" The Shilu survivors on the city wall let out a painful and angry scream. They finally fired again, and the dense bullets immediately tore all the infected people into pieces. Such a tragic scene made Shepard feel angry, but she still remained calm. She turned to Ashley Williams and said, "Did you see it? What is Mongar doing? It's toying with these people, causing their anger and sadness. It clearly has the ability to kill all those who resist, but it chooses to torture them slowly," Ashley Williams said. Sen Luo looked at this scene and said coldly, "For it, torturing these people is more important than eating them." Mongar, is an intelligent creature. It is not a monster that relies on instinct to act, Shepard said. This shows that its purpose of entering the civilized world is to invade, not to eat or reproduce. Does it make a difference? Ashley Williams asked. The biggest difference is that intelligent creatures have homes. Shepard's eyes were sharp. So, where is Mongar's home? Find its home and destroy it so that we can be completely safe, Sen Luo said. At this time, the communication was connected, and the voice of another ghost agent, Death, came through. I am already in place. This is an arena, filled with Shilu people. They always maintain a sitting posture, doing nothing until their bodies rot away. As we discovered, Mongar infected these people out of purpose rather than instinct, Shepard said. Is the plan ready? Ready. High explosive bombs, plus a holographic light and shadow show, Death said. What's the distance? Sen Luo asked from the side. It is 150 kilometers away from you in a straight line. I can confirm that even if a nuclear bomb is detonated here, you will not know it, Death said. Let's start. Shepard nodded. 150 kilometers away, the invisible ghost agent pressed the button. Boom! An extremely violent explosion suddenly erupted from a corner of the arena, and countless Shilu-infected people flew into the sky along with countless rubble. Not only that, the high-power holographic projection created an image of an army pressing into the situation and countless robots starting to attack. At the same time, on Shepard's side, the Mongar infected who were torturing the survivors suddenly stopped and all turned back to look in the direction of the explosion. Then they began to retreat slowly and in an organized manner. This is an individual. At least on this planet, Shepard said. Gestalt consciousness? Ashley Williams frowned. I don't know. I always feel that something is not quite right. Anyway, call the fleet. Before the fleet comes, let's communicate with this group of survivors. Shepard came out of her hiding place and turned on the cloaking device. Under the cover of the enemy, she ran towards the group of grief-stricken survivors. The group of survivors had completely fallen into despair. When a human appeared before them, their initial panic soon subsided after Shepard explained his purpose. Malai accepted that their civilization was at war with this new race. During his communication with them, Shepard learned many things. First, the behavior of the Mongol is highly purposeful. Most of the time, they use those they have infected as carriers to act on their behalf. Although the Mongol themselves have some mobility, it is still inconvenient for them. Secondly, the Mongol take pleasure in slowly killing their targets, relishing in their victims' enough despair and pain. However, the survivors believe that the Mongol cannot gain the memories of the people they consume. The Mongol will use the bodies of their victims' relatives and friends to torture their will, but in conversations, it becomes clear that they know nothing about the deceased. Additionally, the infected can drive, use weapons, and even fly spaceships. These abilities are learned by the Mongol themselves, not through the memories of the infected. As for the origin of the Mongol, the survivors can only speculate. They know that Admiral Lepic's main fleet was stationed on the planet Kruta. However, a few months later, due to supply problems, they had to dispatch all their troops to attack the planet Levic. Strangely, after the main fleet left, a squadron arrived on Kruta. Soon after, the Mongol infection began to appear and spread rapidly, almost occupying the entire planet in less than a month. The survivors believe the infection may have been spread through spacecraft. In the first few days after the squadron arrived on Kruta, they frequently launched fighter jets and transport ships to the ground. However, after the Mongol outbreak, these activities became rare. Kruta has only 4 very large cities and some surrounding small towns. This relatively concentrated layout facilitated the rapid spread of the Mongol. Now it can actually be inferred that the Mongol came here with this squadron. But the question is, who infected the squadron? Ashley Williams pondered. There is only one way to find out, Shepard said. We need to board their battleship and search the logbook. Chapter 1958, The Fog Gradually Clears, Part 2. General, this is the 4/12th stowaway spacecraft this week, an intelligence officer reported to Lieutenant General He Ru, the commander of the exploration fleet. Inside the wreckage of the destroyed spacecraft It was confirmed to be Mengar. Hiru rubbed his forehead in frustration. We can only continue to strengthen our vigilance. No spacecraft except our own is allowed to enter Levik's planet. It's not sustainable to continue like this, the intelligence officer replied. After we blocked the Stargate, Dawn Planet also said it would reduce its material assistance to us. The Ministry of Interior is very dissatisfied with our endless requests for help. Moreover, some of our defenders are still unable to block the entire planet. Those stowaway spacecraft could approach from any direction. How many B-1 combat robots are in place now? And what about the Geth? Hiru inquired. We currently have about 3 million B-1 combat robots, the intelligence officer responded. We are also renovating the production line of B-1 combat robots in the Cryak Palace, but this number is far from sufficient. Additionally, the Geth cannot send too many individuals here. They also need to build production lines to expand their numbers on site. He sighed and added, another reason Dawn Planet is not enthusiastic about reinforcements is our blockade of the Stargate. Our reinforcements are essentially on a one-way trip. Even if we agree to thorough inspections, some spacecraft are returned by robots, but this involves risks and is highly inefficient. For instance, a package containing Mongol was found in the corner of a whale-class passenger spacecraft that returned the day before yesterday. This incident made the customs of Dawn Planet very angry. What about the surface of the planet? Hiru asked. We have confirmed that there are Mengar among the residents, but we can't check them at the moment. We can only prevent their spread as much as possible, the intelligence officer replied. We have strengthened mutual monitoring of residents and increased patrols. Although dividing residential areas has been effective, it cannot last long. Hiru nodded. Mongol's patience may be infinite, but we can't keep planet Livik in this state forever. In 3 months at most, the social order of planet Livik will collapse. I understand now where the Xilu Empire's confidence in wanting Mongol to destroy us comes from. The most effective way to curb the spread of Mongol is to prevent them from entering the planet, but the Xilu Empire has already completed this step for Mongol. He paused and then said, continue working and ask Dawn Planet to send more B-1 combat robots. If we still want to keep Livik Planet, then equipping combat robots everywhere on the planet is the simplest but most effective method. Yes, General, the intelligence officer responded. At that moment, a soldier wearing the black combat uniform of the 4th Legion walked in. He was Huang Yehao, the commander of the 4th Legion Company of this exploration fleet. General He, the rebellion in Nuka City has been put down. The Xilu rebels have surrendered, Huang Yehao reported with a military salute. Weren't the rebels in Nuka City very tough? They even killed several local officials we sent, skinned the corpses, and hung them on the top of the city hall, Hiru said, surprised. I thought this counterinsurgency would cause significant casualties, which is why I asked your 4th Army to take action. Because there was an infection of Mongar among them, Huang Yehao explained. 3 of their settlements were infected overnight. In the end, we carried out airborne operations and guided the Air Force to eliminate the infected with incendiary bombs. After this incident, they should be frightened, Huang Yehao said, curling his lips. Now the occurrence of Mengar has spread in many places. The idea of the god of decay is very widespread. Hiru frowned. How did the idea of the god of decay spread? It seems some high-ranking officials of the Xilu people who have not been captured by us are responsible, Huang Yehao explained. During previous interrogations, we learned that among some senior officials of the Xilu people, the theory of the god of decay has been circulating. For the Xilu people, in an era when the Lu Empire is at its end, there seems to be an unexpected market for the god of decay. Let's go. You come with me to Umbrella's laboratory, Hiru said, waving his hand. Together with Huang Yehao, he headed in the direction of Cryak Palace. Not far from there was Laboratory 101. In the past few days, Shirley Birkin, the top director of Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group, had been staying there. She was currently in one of the laboratories that had been organized in Laboratory 101, where several scientific researchers were testing a sample of Mengar using advanced testing equipment. Seeing Hiru and the others enter, Shirley Birkin said coldly, "As far as I know, you didn't do your job well. If that's the case, why are you still wasting time here? Mongar Mengar has penetrated into other places. This thing is impossible to prevent. If you have any research results, share them with us as soon as possible. We need more information." Lieutenant General Hiru said, "Unfortunately, we have nothing to give you. Besides, it is not our responsibility to handle security," Shirley Birkin replied coldly. Huang Yahao immediately became angry. He shouted, "Whose side are you on? We are desperately trying to prevent the spread of Mongar Mengar, and you are here making sarcastic remarks." "If you think this is an easy task, then you can certainly do the research," Shirley Birkin retorted. "And, General He, I remember I told you how to stop Mongar Mengar's spread." Huang Yahao turned to look at Heiru with some confusion, only to find that his face was very grim. "Spread the G-virus to stop Mongar Mengar. Do you think our place is not chaotic enough?" Lieutenant General Hiru said through gritted teeth. But Shirley Birkin no longer wanted to pay attention to them. "Let's go." Hiru turned around and left with Huang Yahao. Watching them leave, a sneer appeared on the corner of Shirley Birkin's lips. She said to the researcher next to her, "Get ready to start the 7th experiment. Let's see this time what this young Mongar Mengar can do. It seems unable to form an independent consciousness. Thanks to Hiro and Yuanji for the 1,500 starting coins." Chapter 1959, Step-by-Step Exploration. In the outer space of the planet Cruda, the Normandy was running at full power, hastily escaping. Behind the spacecraft, 3 tattered-looking Siri-class battlecruisers of the Siru Empire were in hot pursuit, their artillery fire constantly bombarding the void, creating a perilous situation. However, the Normandy was agile, deftly evading the firepower of the Sirui-class battlecruisers while activating its stealth system. This maneuver caused the clumsy warships to lose their target immediately, and their intensive artillery fire hit nothing but empty space. Just moments ago, Shepard and her team had infiltrated one of the Sirui-class battlecruisers, sneaking all the way to the bridge to retrieve the voyage log. This bold move naturally caused chaos among the Mongar Mongar on the battleship. Shepard and her team, working in perfect harmony and displaying formidable strength, fought their way through the ship, escaping back to the Normandy. The Mongar Mongar, however, were relentless. They pursued the Normandy with their warships, but their lack of skill compared to the Normandy's crew made their efforts futile. The warships were too cumbersome to keep up. As the Normandy broke free from the gravitational pull and activated its hyperspace engine, it vanished in a burst of white light. The 3 Siri-class battlecruisers, having lost their target, gradually came to a halt. They did not return to the planet, but instead drifted aimlessly, like steel coffins in space. Chapter 1960, Exploration, Step by Step. On the planet Levick, the Mongar Mongar infection continued to flare up sporadically. Although effective control measures prevented the planet from being overrun, the persistent outbreaks hindered the reopening of the Stargate channel between Levick and the Dawn Principality. The silver lining was that the growing awareness of Mongar Mongar's terrifying nature led to a decrease in the rebellion of the Xilu people. The primary conflict on the planet shifted towards combating the Mongar Mongar threat. The arrival of the Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group did little to change the rampant spread of Mongar Mongar. Shirley Birkin, a key figure in the group, was not particularly focused on curbing the infection. After conducting a simple experiment, she presented a radical solution to Lieutenant General Ru, the current top commander of Livik Planet and the commander of the First Exploration Fleet, the G-Virus. Interestingly, Shirley Birkin was the first person in the Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group to be attacked by Mongar Mongar, which expedited the experimental process. She quickly discovered that Mongar Mongar had a strong aversion to the G-Virus. Birkin theorized that the G-Virus's chaotic nature, constantly evolving in response to environmental changes, was fundamentally opposed to the orderly nature of Mongar Mongar. Despite its widespread infection, Mongar Mongar ultimately transformed its victims into a uniform sludge-like state, demonstrating its inherent orderliness. To avoid the G-Virus, Mongar Mongar would go to extreme lengths, even severing its own limbs to survive. In contrast, Monger was less repelled by the T-virus and Veronica virus, merely isolating and expelling them from the body. Based on these findings, Shirley Birkin placed a test tube of the G-virus in a special freezer box and handed it to Lieutenant General He Ru. She advised him that if the spread of Monger became uncontrollable, releasing the G-virus would quickly curb the infection. Even zombies formed from trace amounts of the G-virus would help control the spread of Monger. The existence of the G-virus is something that cannot be ignored. Shirley Birkin mentioned that if the G-virus were to spread uncontrollably in the future, she would be the one to handle it. Until then, she requested not to be disturbed. After the Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group arrived on Levi's planet, they dedicated all their time to researching this biological entity, neglecting other matters entirely. Ev and General He Ru had to tread carefully around Shirley Birkin, fearing she might lose control and cause an explosion. He sent over 10 reports to the Dawn planet regarding the situation, but all were ignored. This silence indicated the top management of the Dawn Principality supported the actions of the Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group. Tang Xiao was indifferent to the fate of Levi's planet. His only concern was what the Dawn Principality could gain from Monger's research. The lives on Levi's planet were expendable to him. The worst-case scenario would be to replace the casualties with new personnel, as Monger had not shown any ability to threaten inorganic life forms. Reinforcements were dwindling, the infection was spreading, riots were ongoing, and potential threats loomed. Lieutenant General He Ru felt overwhelmed. At this critical moment, the Normandy returned. Shepard and her team brought back the latest information from the planet Cruda, including the logbook of the squadron stationed there. Based on the fleet's trajectory, they identified 6 planets on the star map that were likely infected by Monger. The next step was to explore these 6 planets to gather more information about Monger's home planet. Shepard was convinced that Monger had a home planet. Whether it was a race with Gestalt consciousness or a creature, there had to be a core, and this core was on an unknown mother planet. You mean to send an expedition fleet? He Ru asked. Shepard shook her head. No, if we send an expedition fleet directly, Monger might detect our intentions. If it deliberately destroys places where clues might exist, it will make our task more difficult. For now, Monger hasn't taken any action to destroy those clues. It might find it troublesome, or its consciousness might not extend to such detailed levels. You mean to let the Normandy continue to explore? Although it is very dangerous, it is indeed a good plan. If it's you, I believe you can do it, General He Ru nodded. Then, I will also assign some powerful partners to join you. Chapter 1960, Embark on a Journey. Partner? Who? Shepard was a little surprised. It was definitely impossible for Huang Yehao and the Fourth Army, as they needed to stay on Levik's planet and remain on alert as the Ace Force. Who else could she turn to for help besides them? But she didn't have to wait long. The door opened, and a robot with a head resembling a flashlight walked in. Geth! Shepard was startled. Her face suddenly became serious, and her body involuntarily entered a state of alert. She knew about the Geth and was aware that these terrifying mechanical beings were wreaking havoc in the northern part of the galaxy, causing countless deaths. How many residents had perished due to the Geth's rampages? It was impossible to calculate. 5 billion? 10 billion? No one knew for sure. Not only that, but Shepard was also certain that she had had very unpleasant encounters with the Geth before boarding the Mothership. Her instinctive reaction was to draw her gun and shoot upon seeing the Geth. However, she controlled her emotions well. She understood that the Kingdom of Dawn and the Geth were in an alliance. She also knew that the Geth's presence here must be because of Monger. But even so, Shepard still felt a little uneasy. She didn't like the Geth, in every sense of the word. The Geth took the initiative to greet her. Hello, Shepard. We are the Legion, the individuals sent to the planet Livik to assist you in Monger research. First Umbrella, then the Geth. Dawn Planet really isn't worried about big troubles on Livik Planet, is it? Shepard said coldly. General He Ru responded. Umbrella doesn't care about it, but the arrival of the Geth is actually one of the reinforcement plans I proposed. The Geth are smarter and more flexible than ordinary robots. When you explore Mongar Mengar, they are definitely 10,000 times more reliable partners than the B-1 combat robots. We have reviewed your exploration information and believe this is a good start that can bring us closer to the core of Mongar Mengar. We will work under your leadership, Legion said. How many Geth are here? Shepard asked. We are a collection of dozens of individuals. We are different from other individuals and can better perform exploration tasks. Currently, we have established an individual production line in the Kryak Palace and have 3,149 individuals with bodies on Livik planet, Legion replied. Seeing Shepard's expression, General He-Ru added, if you really plan to explore along the Mongar Mengar infection transmission route, the Geth are the best helpers. Shepard sighed and asked, where is Shirley Birkin? What has she been doing during this time? She has been staying in Laboratory 101 and has not shared her research results with us at all. I think she must be doing something shady there. She maneuvered a Steadfast-class cruiser into a geostationary orbit over Laboratory 101, ready to carry out orbital bombing at any time. Such measures make me very worried, He-Ru said. It seems like she can't be counted on, so we can only rely on ourselves. Get ready to go, and you'd better not cause trouble, Geth, Shepard said, staring at Legion. We will follow your instructions, Shepard, Legion replied. At the same time that Shepard was embarking on a journey to find Mongar Mengar's home star, in the northwest of the Milky Way, another Infinity-class super aircraft carrier was parked near a star in an unmanned galaxy. Using the massive magnetic field emitted by the star, they started simple communication with Dawn Planet. This Infinity-class super aircraft carrier, named Eternal, was the second exploration fleet sent by the Principality of Dawn. The departure point of the first exploration fleet was located in the southwest of the Milky Way Plain star map, the Model Sector. It was directly commanded and supported by the Model Sector and Dawn Planet. Although the destination of the second fleet was different, their mission was equally critical. The second exploration fleet embarked on its journey into an unknown star field, departing from the planet Makito, located tens of thousands of light-years away from the first exploration fleet's starting point. Their mission was supported by the Interstellar Banking Association and the Fourth Group. Unlike Shepard's fleet, the second exploration fleet faced a relatively simpler situation. The hyperspace in their direction was more stable, allowing for specific conditions under which hyperspace communication could be maintained, even though long-distance hyperspace jumps were still not feasible. Mongol? The god of decay? Oh my god, such a thing exists, exclaimed a very handsome man with an uninhibited smile and neatly combed brown hair. He sat in his seat, sighing as he wiped his hair, a ray of light flashing on his white teeth. Oh, but the thought that our journey is a challenge to a god fills every cell in my body with the will to fight. On the bridge, many female soldiers from the communication and radar teams quietly observed him. There was no denying it. This man was incredibly handsome and adept at showcasing his masculine charm. Every move he made seemed to exude a magnetic allure. This was evident from the fact that, not long after the second exploration fleet set off, the number of beautiful female soldiers he had been with reached double digits. His name was Keith T. Maxwell, the deputy commander of the second exploration fleet, holding the same rank of captain as Shepard. Since his awakening a year ago and his subsequent joining of the Fourth Civilization, his charismatic personality had quickly made him a focal point within the Navy. However, he was also known for his unruly and rebellious nature. In the absence of war and combat missions, he had become a thorn in the side of the military. Despite this, Grand Duke Tang Xiao of Dawn appointed him as the deputy commander of the second exploration fleet, providing him with treatment equal to that of Shepard and equipping him with his own spaceship. Only Tang Xiao knew the true reason for this decision. Keith Maxwell was an awakened protagonist from the Galaxy of Blood series, a formidable character with a protagonist's aura capable of traversing the galaxy. His rebellious behavior stemmed from a lack of a stage to showcase his talents. Keith Maxwell chose the Stratios-class cruiser for his exploration ship, a state-of-the-art vessel developed and manufactured by Solarian scientists from the Eve technology tree. This research vessel was the epitome of advanced exploration technology. Thanks to Bookfriend 223091775742932 for the 100 starting coins. Chapter 1961, The Chiss First Contact. I'm afraid we have to stay away from that thing next, Case. You must understand that our mission is not to engage with the so-called God of Rot, said a middle-aged man in a Navy general's uniform, his hands clasped behind his back. Ah, General Brent. Keith Maxwell quickly stood up straight and saluted. The somewhat portly general before him was Lieutenant General Brent, the commander of the 2nd Exploration Fleet. Like the 1st Exploration Fleet, their team was composed of experts in tactics, combat, and exploration, including Keith Maxwell, paired with a general. Don't worry, no one really wants to touch this weird thing. However, if we do encounter it, we will naturally not be afraid, Keith Maxwell assured. General Brent nodded. So, we need to find the Chiss. According to General Tan's intelligence, the Chiss are the most powerful civilization in the unknown star field. They must have some knowledge about this Mongar. Even if they don't, we can seek their help to eliminate this threat. No problem. Leave it to me, Keith Maxwell said, raising his eyebrows. Can you confirm the coordinates of our next stop? Brent asked the navigator. According to the star map we obtained on the planet Roxuli, the fleet of the Overseas Exploration Plan 10 years ago should have started the hyperspace jump from here. However, we have not found any usable hyperspace channels in this galaxy. The hyperspace here has become chaotic, and we estimate that we need to wait until the next cycle to start the hyperspace jump, the navigator explained. Brent nodded. 10 years ago, the core of the Overseas Exploration Plan relied on powerful Jedi Masters to navigate and use their Force abilities to guide through this chaotic hyperspace. But now, we don't have that advantage. The only thing we can rely on is the advanced hyperspace engine of the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier. We'll do our best to calculate it, General, the navigator assured. The 2nd Exploration Fleet relied on narratives from General Severance Tan and documents from the Galactic Republic's Overseas Exploration Plan from 10 years ago. This information came from Grand Councilman Enel Tim. Before he was beheaded by General Grievous, Tang Xiao had obtained some information about the Overseas Exploration Plan from him through personal connections. Enel Tim had participated in the plan, which was initially chaired by Deputy Speaker Masameda and provided support, so he knew a lot about it. Using this information, the 2nd Exploration Fleet followed the route of the original Overseas Exploration Plan. Although it wasn't explicitly stated, Tang Xiao knew that during the Overseas Exploration Plan, they had encountered the Chiss. The Chiss controlled their territory very strictly, so when a warship like the Eternal Super Aircraft Carrier entered their space, it would undoubtedly attract their attention. 3 days later, the Eternal Super Aircraft Carrier completed the calculation of the hyperspace channel. With a flash of white light, the massive battleship disappeared into the universe. Another month passed, and the exploration operations of the 2nd Exploration Fleet continued, but there were still no clues. In the unknown star domain where hyperspace lanes were extremely chaotic, such an endeavor was akin to finding a needle in a haystack. After another hyperspace jump, the enormous figure of the Eternal appeared near a desolate-looking planet. This planet looks worthless. Why did the Overseas Exploration Plan label this planet? The navigator wondered aloud while checking the information. According to Representative Enel Tim, the planets selected for the Overseas Exploration Plan are all those that astronomers have calculated as potential colonies. According to their plan, these planets will become overseas colonies of the Galactic Republic. Therefore, it is normal for there to be some deviations in the calculations and exploration, Brent said. No, the calculations are correct, Keith Maxwell suddenly interjected from behind Lieutenant General Brent. There was indeed a colony here, but it was destroyed. How do you know? Lieutenant General Brent turned around, puzzled. From his understanding, although Keith Maxwell's flying skills were exceptional, his personality was unruly and rebellious, making him a thorn in the military's side. Besides his flying skills, he also had a reputation for easily charming women, with many beautiful female soldiers falling for him. This aspect of Keith's character had always irked Lieutenant General Brent. However, Brent was a professional general. He understood that Grand Duke Tang Xiao had personally appointed Keith Maxwell for a reason. So throughout their journey, Brent had given Keith as much room as possible to prove himself. At this moment, Keith Maxwell had shed his usual cynical demeanor. He leaned in front of the sensor screen with a serious expression and said, "There used to be colonies on this planet. Although they were small, they definitely existed. They must have been wiped out afterward. If it was an orbital bombing, the ground should have crystallized due to the high temperature, but here there is only desert," the navigator pointed out. "Look at the climate analysis. Based on the distance between the planet and its star, the average surface temperature should be around 35 degrees Celsius. Although this temperature can be fatal, it is still barely within the habitable range. There is a high chance that there are underground water bodies and fully protected colonies could still be established," Keith Maxwell explained. "That's just a possibility," Lieutenant General Brent said, frowning. "The temperature generated by nuclear bombings and air detonations wouldn't crystallize the surface. Therefore, there must be ruins of colonies beneath the sand layer. The high temperature and severe desertification of this planet have buried the ruins deep under the sand," Keith Maxwell said, pointing to a specific area on the screen. "And look here, the desert area shows definite traces of hardened ground." I still don't quite understand." The navigator scratched his head. "Send the detector down." "Trust me," Keith patted him on the shoulder. "Launch the detector," Brent nodded, choosing to believe him. Soon, the probe entered the planet's atmosphere and scanned the planet's data in more detail. The navigator looked at the data and immediately exclaimed, "According to the detection results, the radioactive radiation in the air exceeds the standard. And there is indeed hardened ground underground, along with the remains of structures. This planet really was once a colony." Lieutenant General Brent was genuinely impressed by Keith Maxwell this time. "You made such an accurate judgment from such limited information. It seems I now understand why the Grand Duke personally appointed you as the deputy commander. Now that we have found traces of civilization, let's attract the attention of the Chiss according to the plan," Keith Maxwell said, spreading his hands. He didn't forget to give a girl from the Communications Corps an ogle. "The entire ship is ready for battle. Release all auxiliary warships. In 1 hour, start broadcasting communication signals," Lieutenant General Brent ordered loudly. The spaceport at the front end of the Eternal Super Aircraft Carrier opened, and battleships flew out one after another. The configuration included 5 575-meter-long Steadfast-class cruisers, 4 372-meter-long Double-Blade-class electronic warfare light cruisers, and 1 Stratus-class cruiser. Keith Maxwell's spaceship make up the entirety of the Second Exploration Fleet. This fleet's operations are supported by the Endless-class super aircraft carrier, which is designed to sustain such a fleet on exploration missions. The carrier's wide-area communication system was activated to broadcast its presence to the surrounding star areas once all battleships were deployed. As time passed, the Second Exploration Fleet remained on high alert. After 16 standard hours, the radar department detected a signal. A radar operator announced loudly, "Hyperspace fluctuations detected. A fleet is using hyperspace navigation to approach this galaxy. Prepare for battle. Raise the shields, charge the main gun. But remember, do not provoke first and exercise restraint," ordered Lieutenant General Brent. Simultaneously, Keith Maxwell, now aboard his Stratus-class cruiser, commanded his ship to activate its cloaking device, allowing it to move stealthily around the fleet. Soon, a bright white light flashed, and a fleet of more than 30 spacecraft appeared approximately 10 light minutes away from the Second Exploration Fleet's formation. This could only mean one thing: the Chiss. The Chiss fleet soon sent a communication. Vice Admiral Brent connected it, and a middle-aged Chiss woman, appearing around 40 years old, appeared on the screen. She had straight black hair, scarlet eyes, and blue skin, thin cheeks, a calm expression, and an imposing presence. "I am Admiral Iriziar Alani Ziara of the Irizi family, representing the Chiss Defense Fleet. You have entered the jurisdiction of the Chiss Ascendancy. In view of your offer to communicate, I will give you a chance to explain your purpose. After that, please leave immediately, the stern female general said coldly in Chun, the official language of the Chiss. Thanks to Severance Tan, this language was already in the database of the Principality of Dawn, making translations straightforward. We are an exploration fleet from the Milky Way, the Principality of Dawn. We come with peaceful intentions, Admiral Brent responded confidently. I am aware of the war between you and the Galactic Republic. The Chiss have no intention of getting involved in galactic disputes. I believe you are also incapable of maintaining rule in the unknown star field. Therefore, there will be no intersection between us. If there are no other matters, please return immediately and bring peace to the Chiss, Admiral Ziara stated. We came here hoping to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Chiss. We can engage in trade and exchanges for mutual benefit. In our principality, there is also a Chiss, Severance Tan, who serves as our admiral, Lieutenant General Brent said with a smile. Admiral Ziara sneered. The Sev family has become history in the Chiss territory, and Severance Tan, who betrayed her family, is no longer regarded as a Chiss citizen. Her existence is a shame to the Chiss. Do you still expect us to relax our stance because of her? Lieutenant General Brent remained calm and smiled. General Severance Tan has also expressed her intention to sever ties with the Chiss, and we fully respect her and your decision. However, from her, we have learned about the Chiss territory, a great civilization in the unknown star field. We hope to communicate with you based on mutual respect and understanding. Chiss Ascendancy does not wish to communicate with your Principality of Dawn. We live well here and will never get involved in galactic disputes, Ziara replied firmly. But I think we should have a lot in common, Brent began, but was interrupted. Chiara's smile faded, replaced by a serious expression. Mongol, she said. Upon hearing this name, Chiara's demeanor changed dramatically. Note, let me explain the naming conventions of the Chiss people, which are quite strict. Chiss names are divided into 3 parts. The first part is the family name, the second part is the individual's name, and the third part is the faction name. They also have a core name, which is an abbreviation of the full name. For example, Iriziarali, Irizi is the family name, Ar is the individual's name, and Alani is the faction. The core name, Ziara, is derived from the middle part of the full name. Let's apply this to Grand Admiral Thrawn. His full name is Mith Ra Nuruodo. Mith is the family name, Ra is the individual's name, and Nurodo is the faction. His core name, Thrawn, is taken from the middle part of his full name. Now, consider Severance Tan. Since she appears in a game, her setting is somewhat rough and she doesn't have a core name. She is always referred to as Severance Tan. Formally, her name should be Sev Lance Tan. Sever is the family name, Lance is the individual's name, and Tan is the faction. According to Chiss naming conventions, her core name would likely be Vrancet. In the past few days, I considered translating this book for Chidian Overseas Station and tried a few chapters. To my surprise, some foreigners left messages saying that many people are already translating my book. On the Chidian Overseas website alone, there are 4 or 5 versions. I was astonished. Could my book be that popular? I searched and found several versions. Some translators gave up after 3 or 5 chapters, while others stopped around 200 chapters. The most extensive translation, by a book friend named Sean Morabito, has reached 736 chapters. This was truly a pleasant surprise. Chapter 1962, Preliminary Negotiations. Seeing Admiral Chiara's reaction, Lieutenant General Brent smiled slightly, feeling a weight lift from his heart. Many in the Dawn Principality army feared Severance Tan because of her formidable reputation. Her fleet had never been defeated, always finding a way to turn the tide in even the most desperate situations. She was the epitome of invincibility. In simulated war games, the only person in the Dawn Kingdom who could compete with Severance Tan was General Ling Liang. Their record stood at about 30-70, with Ling Liang on the losing side, but this was still the best among all the generals. Ling Liang excelled in strategy, though there was a significant gap between her and Tan in tactical prowess. It should be noted that since General Ling learned zero-mode probability from the Jiwen people, She often conceded simulated battles against Tan, calculating that she couldn't win and thus choosing to admit defeat early. Many in the Dawn Principality army associated Severance Tan's power with the Chiss. Now facing Admiral Chiara, an equally extraordinary Chiss general, Lieutenant General Brent felt a drumbeat of anxiety in his heart. He believed that someone of Admiral Chiara's caliber must have strong emotional control. Her drastic change in expression indicated that he had asked the right question. The Chiss indeed knew Mongol. "Have you met Mongol?" Admiral Chiara's face turned cold. "General, the main guns of the Chiss warship are charging. Do they want to start a war?" Brent's adjutant said urgently. Brent waved his hand to calm him down and then addressed Admiral Chiara. "You don't have to worry about Mongol. It would be unfortunate if too much tension led to a war between our two civilizations. We did not encounter Mongol directly. One of our colonies did. We know nothing about Mongol and hope to get some information from you." Admiral Chiara stared at Brent for a moment before her tone softened. "Where did you encounter Mongol's colony?" "Planet Livik. I will send you the coordinates immediately." Brent signaled, and the communications department sent the coordinates. He continued, "Additionally, according to the latest news, a planet called Kruta has completely fallen. The entire planet is now overrun by Mongol. Planet Levik. I remember it was within the sphere of influence of the Xilu Empire. A troublesome race," Chiara said, frowning. "The Xilu Empire is a thing of the past. They used anti-human, anti-social, and anti-civilization human battery technology, capturing other races as batteries, wiping out at least 7 civilizations, and causing the massacre of tens of billions. They were personally ordered to be eliminated by our Grand Duke of the Principality of Dawn," Brent said proudly, his chest puffed out. This was a topic that didn't need to irritate the other party too much, but could showcase their own power. Chiara squinted at Brent, her eyes lowering as if scanning something. It seemed she was reviewing the scanning results of the Eternal Super Aircraft Carrier with her own sensors. Then she asked, "So, what is the current situation on planet Levik?" "We have dispatched a special research team to study Mongol, but with little success. At the time when the Xilu Empire was on the brink of collapse, they adopted a desperate strategy. They released the Mongol virus. Although we quickly initiated decontamination and containment measures, the virus still spread to other parts of the planet. We are deeply troubled by the ongoing infections," Lieutenant General Brent explained. "Planet Levik, what is the population? Where is your defense force?" Admiral Chiara inquired further. "The population of the Xilu people is about 10 billion, and the population of the subordinate race, Piake, is about 5 billion. Lieutenant General Brent responded truthfully. "According to the information we received a month ago, the Defense Force consists of 4.1 million combat robots, and Breck elite regular army of 20,000 soldiers, and a Piake army of 6 million. Additionally, to combat the Mongol virus, some Xilu people have organized a volunteer army, numbering about 500,000. Based on what we know about the Mongol virus, Planet Levik is likely to fall within a year. I hope you are prepared for the worst and have immediately blocked all shipping lanes around Planet Levik," Admiral Chiara advised. "The waterways have indeed been blocked. Except for transport ships carrying combat robots, no other spacecraft are allowed in or out. We are doing everything possible to prevent the fall of Planet Levik because it concerns the lives of 15 billion people," Lieutenant General Brent assured. "Did you come here solely because of the Mongol virus?" Chiara continued to probe. "We hope to establish a forward base on Planet Levik, promote the development of the unknown star field, and open up transportation between here and the Milky Way. Most importantly, we aim to establish equal, peaceful, and friendly relations with the Chiss. We will not drag the Chiss into our war efforts. Our goal for the unknown star field is always peaceful," Lieutenant General Brent stated. "Does your pursuit of peace also include the destruction of the Xilu Empire?" Chiara asked with a sarcastic smile. "If you understood the shocking crimes the Xilu Empire has committed for their human battery technology, I believe you would support our actions. The Chiss are a civilized, advanced, and enlightened race. We have always believed so." Lieutenant General Brent replied earnestly. Admiral Chiara pondered for a moment and then said, "I will report your intentions to the Chiss Council, including the situation on planet Levick, the destruction of the Zilu Empire, and the spread of the Mongol virus. Until we receive a response, I hope you will remain where you are and refrain from any extraordinary actions. The power of the Chiss should not be underestimated." "Don't worry," Lieutenant General Brent said with a smile and a nod. The wait lasted 3 days. During this time, Admiral Chiara's defense fleet remained vigilant, monitoring the Second Exploration Fleet and preventing any changes. Admiral Chiara refused all communication requests from Lieutenant General Brent and maintained silence, indicating her meticulous and traditional soldierly character. Finally, communication from Admiral Chiara came through. Lieutenant General Brent, who had been waiting on the bridge and even sleeping there to show his respect for the Chiss, immediately connected the call. Admiral Chiara appeared on the screen with her usual meticulous and serious expression. "I must say, regarding your visit from the Dawn Principality, there were differences among the 4 ruling families in the Chiss Council. However, after several days of discussion, we have reached a consensus and are willing to give you a chance to meet in person," she said slowly. "Oh, this is an honor for us. So, how do we proceed?" Lieutenant General Brent asked. "Your warships are not allowed to enter Chiss territory. You can only send a shuttle here, and as the commander-in-chief of this fleet, you must come in person," Admiral Chiara instructed. Admiral Chiara said, "This is natural. Then please give me some time. I need to form a formal delegation." Lieutenant General Brent smiled and nodded. He pressed another communication button in front of General Chiara and said, "Case, come back. You need to come with me." "No problem, General," came the response from the communication. Immediately afterward, a white spacecraft suddenly appeared from the void of the universe. This spacecraft had a slender and graceful hull, with a prominent ring structure behind it, adding to its aesthetic appeal. It was a Stratus-class cruiser, the ship that Tang Xiao had given to Keith Maxwell. The appearance of this spaceship caused Admiral Chiara's expression to change dramatically. Its location was less than 1,000 kilometers away from the Chiss fleet. What did that mean? It meant that if it launched an attack on the Chiss warships, they wouldn't even have a chance to react. Even if a proton torpedo was launched, at such a close distance, the success rate of interception would drop to less than half. There was no doubt that Lieutenant General Brent had summoned Keyes back to his side and made his spaceship appear as a demonstration against the Chiss. This forced Admiral Chiara to reevaluate the combat capabilities of both sides. According to her judgment, if the fleets of the two sides engaged in a firefight, her winning rate had dropped from 70% to 50%. All this was because this cruiser could sneak up to them within less than 1,000 kilometers. What made Admiral Chiara even more uneasy was that the fleet in front of her was just an exploration fleet. She already knew that Brent's military rank was only lieutenant general. So what if it was an admiral? What was the size of the fleet he led? Did the other party have the rank of Navy Marshal? In fact, General Chiara knew that the Chisland cabinet had discussed for 3 days whether to accept the visit of the Dawn Principality. A very important factor was the military strength displayed by the other party. The largest battleship class in the Chiss Defense Fleet was the heavy cruiser. In the Chiss Defense Fleet, they used the term man of war to refer to their capital ships, which were heavy cruisers. They had a total of 3 classes of capital ships: Firewolf class, Ground Lion class, and the largest, Night Dragon class. The largest Night Dragon class battleship was about 900 meters in length. Admiral Chiara's current flagship was a Night Dragon class battleship, the only one in her fleet. In contrast, the fleet sent by the Principality of Dawn had a giant battleship over 5,600 meters long. The appearance of this battleship greatly shocked the ruling families in the Chisland cabinet, not only because of the advanced shipbuilding technology and craftsmanship displayed by the huge size of this battleship, but also because the Principality of Dawn had the ability to drive such a super battleship into the unknown star territory. Why was the unknown star field separated from the rest of the galaxy? It was because of the chaotic and complex hyperspace environment, often called chaos. It was simply impossible for a normal spaceship to enter the unknown star territory through hyperspace navigation. Even the Chiss themselves could only rely on a limited number of hyperspace lanes that had been summarized and discovered over a long time to navigate, and even then, they had to use force-sensitive navigators to complete navigation. In hyperspace, it was common knowledge that the larger the spacecraft, the more difficult it was to pass through. So now, the Principality of Dawn had the ability to sail this more than 5,600-meter-long super battleship into the unknown star field. Did that mean they already had the capability to launch a large-scale invasion of the Chiss territory? This situation made the ruling families in the Chislan cabinet feel a great threat. The Chisi territory felt a real butcher's knife hanging over their heads. They were not afraid of the Principality of Dawn, but this confidence was based on the belief that the Principality of Dawn could not bring their fleet over. They were not naive enough to think their national power could compare with that of the Principality of Dawn. Although they were not involved in the war on the other side of the galaxy, it did not mean they were ignorant of it. A war of such scale could not go unnoticed. The Chiss were well aware of the Principality of Dawn's might, having fought the Galactic Republic for 2.5 years, annihilating countless Republic fleets and destroying 4 of the Republic's 20 legions. Under normal circumstances, the Chislan cabinet would not agree to such diplomatic contact. However, the primary reason they agreed to Lieutenant General Brent's visit was to understand the true intentions of the Principality of Dawn and whether they posed any real threat to the Chiss territory. Now, in addition to a super battleship capable of navigating unknown star fields, the exploration fleet of the Principality of Dawn included a stealth battleship that could infiltrate the 1,000-kilometer monitoring range of their fleet. This was not an ordinary small stealth ship, but a cruiser-level vessel. If war were to break out, the consequences could be disastrous for Chisling. Chiara came to this conclusion. Note, man of war is an older term for battleships in the English language. In modern times, it has been replaced by the term battleship. Chapter 1963, Chisi Ling, Part 1. A shuttle took off from the Eternal Super Aircraft Carrier and flew towards Admiral Chiara's flagship, the Night Dragon-class heavy cruiser Vigilant. The official shuttle of the Principality of Dawn is still the Neimoidian Sheathipede-class shuttle, produced by Howard Chal Engineering, a subsidiary of the Trade Federation. This model of shuttle is so classic that even in the original Star Wars plot, the Sheathipede-class shuttle was still in use until the end of the Galactic Empire. Of course, the Sheathipede-class shuttle has undergone many modifications over time. The current model boasts improved performance, enhanced protection and comfort, and a more aesthetically pleasing design, aligning closely with the shipbuilding style of the Principality of Dawn. On board the shuttle were the Commander-in-Chief of the 2nd Exploration Fleet, Lieutenant General Brent, and the Deputy Commander, Captain Keith Maxwell. Despite their vastly different military ranks, their positions were quite similar. Accompanying them were 2 negotiators, a protocol robot, and 2 attendants. They did not bring guards because Keith Maxwell assured that if a conflict arose, he could handle it. If he couldn't, guards would be of no use. Lieutenant General Brent had great confidence in Maxwell's combat abilities, which had been fully demonstrated during training exercises on the fleet's voyage. Although the Commander-in-Chief and Deputy Commander of the 2nd Exploration Fleet were not present, the fleet was far from undefended. They had left a T-Series tactical robot in command. If Brent and the others were kidnapped or detained, the T-Series tactical robots would cold-bloodedly execute preset combat orders, even if it led to their deaths. As the shuttle approached Admiral Chiara's flagship, Keith Maxwell looked out the window at the spaceship, which was markedly different from the angular and mechanical shipbuilding style of the Milky Way. He remarked with interest, "The shape of their spaceship is quite strange." "Do you see anything?" Lieutenant General Brent asked. "This is a battleship. I mean, it's built purely with artillery warfare in mind, without considering carrier-based aircraft," Maxwell explained. "The shape of this spaceship does not fully utilize the available space, so there definitely won't be a large built-in hangar. but I think this shape must be related to their unique reactor and energy transmission system. You know a lot, Brent smiled. Although my past memories are blurred after boarding the Mothership, I think I spent my whole life on spacecraft, Keith Maxwell said. Brent nodded, but said nothing more. The shuttle quickly entered through the entrance behind the Night Dragon-class heavy cruiser and landed on a small hangar platform. Chiss Defense Fleet Admiral Elise Alalani Ziara was waiting ahead. She was taller than expected, nearly 1.8 meters, which made her even more imposing than she appeared on the screen. General Brent, on behalf of Chisland, I welcome you, Admiral Chiara said, giving a military salute. This is also our honor, Brent and Keith replied, returning the salute. They walked towards the bridge. Although Admiral Chiara maintained a serious demeanor, Keith Maxwell couldn't help but chat. I heard that you Chiss people have 4 major ruling families in your cabinet, he asked. Actually, there are 9, Chiara replied seriously. 4 of the families are the strongest, so they are called the ruling families. There are also 5 less powerful families, but they are also members of the cabinet. Oh, so all your affairs are discussed and decided by the 9-member cabinet? Maxwell asked, suddenly realizing. Only military and national affairs submitted to the cabinet are discussed and decided, Chiara clarified. Ordinary matters are resolved in the parliament. The Chisland's parliament is composed of representatives from the major colonies, Chiara explained, not hiding the political system of Chisland. She provided a brief overview. Of course, matters involving the Dawn Principality will naturally be handled personally by the 4 major families. Lieutenant General Brent nodded silently. He understood that a political system like Chisland's was essentially an oligarchic democracy, a model that balanced between autocracy and democracy. Ah, to cultivate such a beautiful and powerful general like you, your family must be quite influential, right? Keith Maxwell began doing what he did best, flirting. Even the 2 negotiators behind him couldn't help but cast strange looks his way. This guy is really something. The Admiral Chiara in front of them was clearly not a conventional beauty. She appeared to be over 40 years old, with angular cheeks that gave her a majestic look, but she wasn't traditionally beautiful. Yet, Keith was undeterred. Could it be that he didn't want to fight anymore? Chiara looked back at Keith and said calmly, the Eliz family is indeed one of the 9 cabinet members, but it is not one of the 4 major families. The Eliz family has a strong reputation in the defense force and education sectors. She nodded to Keith after speaking. Lieutenant General Brent and the others were all taken aback. It seemed like Admiral Chiara's tone had softened considerably. Keith Maxwell, with his charm, had managed to keep the conversation going with Chiara along the way. Although Chiara was very secretive about their military matters, she still shared a lot about the cultural customs of the Chiss. One had to admire Keith's ability to speak well and make connections wherever he went. When they followed Admiral Chiara's flagship and docked at the spaceport outside the Chiss's home planet of Scylla, they had already learned a lot about the Chiss. Keith Maxwell not only chatted with Chiara, but after noticing that the Admiral, despite her change in attitude, still kept her distance, he went on to engage with several other female soldiers, learning even more. Of course, it was a pity for Brent that Keith failed to win over Chiara. In the family palace in the center of Soplar, the capital of the planet Scylla, Brent and the others were granted an audience with the cabinet, the highest governing body of Chisland. The heads of the 4 major families sat in the center, while the heads of the other 5 ruling families sat on either side. They all wore clothes of different colors to distinguish their respective families. Welcome, envoys of the Principality of Dawn. We wish to know, does the Principality of Dawn bring peace or war to our Chisland? Chapter 1964, Chisi Ling, Part 2. There is no doubt that we are here for peace, Brent said. The Principality of Dawn has no intention of launching a war against Chisland, nor do we need Chisland to join our war. All we hope for is to make a friend. Since it's for peace, I think we can start a conversation, said one of the 4 people sitting in the middle, a middle-aged woman. She glanced at Brent and the others and added, I am from the Shopla family. Another middle-aged man next to her spoke up. The members of the Chisling cabinet have all given up their personal names. We represent our entire families, and our titles are equivalent to our family names. I am from the Naruto family, Inrokini family, Sabosin family. After the leaders of the 4 major families introduced themselves, the other 5 families also introduced themselves. It was clear that the people standing here were the highest authority ruling the entire Chisi territory, the family cabinet. Principality of Dawn, commander of the 2nd Exploration Fleet, Vice Admiral Brent. Vice Admiral Brent responded, neither humble nor condescending. Very good, then. Since the Principality of Dawn has sent a fleet from afar, please tell us directly, what benefits can the Principality of Dawn bring to us? The Shopla family representative asked straightforwardly. The Chisland is not directly connected to the outside world. We are self-sufficient, have our own culture and civilization, possess enough power to protect ourselves, and have rich resources. The relationship between the Principality of Dawn, the Galactic Republic, and the current Galactic Empire is not stable in our opinion. If we accept you, it will attract the hostility of the Galactic Empire to Chisland. The Naruto family representative said, It seems that you are still paying attention to what is happening in the galaxy. Doesn't this just mean that you are not as isolated as you claim? Brent said with a smile. Threats from the outside world are always present. Of course, we will not turn a blind eye to potential threats, the Naruto family representative replied. The Naruto family is in charge of the military and diplomacy of Chisland. Their strength ranks 2nd among the 4 major families in Chisland, 2nd only to the Sapla family, which is in charge of resources and colonial management. This family is also the one that adopted Thrawn. Brent smiled and said, The Principality of Dawn is willing to share our economy, technology, and culture with Chisland. This will broaden our mutual horizons, promote each other's development, and enhance each other's strength. There is no harm in this. I believe that after we establish a communication mechanism, we will soon understand the benefits that each other can bring. I think you have overlooked one point. The location of Chisi Ling is not connected to the outside world, the Sabosin family representative said. Brent shook his head and said, I believe you were aware of the Galactic Republic's overseas exploration plan 10 years ago. Do you still think that the Chis territory is isolated? And for now, do you think I am? How did we get here? Similarly, how did our other exploration fleet destroy the Shilu Empire? Are you threatening us? The Naruto family representative said coldly. Or do you think that if you can defeat the Shilu Empire, you can definitely defeat our Chisi territory? This is not a threat, but an objective fact. The unknown star field is not as isolated and remote as you think, Brent said. And if you continue to think so, continue to hide and not contact the outside world, you will be swallowed up by the outside world sooner or later. If you want to come, Chisi's fleet is waiting for you at any time. The Naruto family representative seemed a little angry, raising his voice. Lieutenant General Brent still maintained a smile. Indeed, we are here, but it is for peace. Please see, here is a gift from the Principality of Dawn to Chisland. An attendant handed over a gift. Lieutenant General Brent Han dead the gift list to Admiral Chiara, who then passed it to the Cipra family. Here are some precious products from the Principality of Dawn, such as plant seeds, animal embryos, and more. Most importantly, we have included the blueprint for a technology, the curvature engine. Lieutenant General Brent activated a projection and began to explain. You are likely familiar with the principle of curvature navigation, but we have not yet developed a mature engine. This is because there are still some relatively stable hyperspace channels in Chisland. However, the hyperspace here remains extremely unstable, so we believe the curvature engine can help you further strengthen communication within your leadership. This curvature engine is what you rely on to enter chaos? Inquired a member of the Inrokini family. For the residents of the unknown star field, they refer to this area as chaos. Oh no, Brent shook his head. The warp engine is merely a gift to demonstrate our sincerity. Our Kingdom of Dawn has at least 3 other technologies currently in use that allow us to enter and exit chaos. Sharing these technologies will depend on our mutual understanding. Lieutenant General Brent, chosen to lead the 2nd Exploration Fleet, and make contact with the Chiss people, was well suited for this role. Out of his military uniform, he resembled an eloquent diplomat, handling the situation with ease. Although Brent emphasized that he came in peace, his words subtly reminded the Chiss people that the Dawn Principality had sufficient means to enter the unknown star territory. This was enough. He did not need to elaborate on the power of the Dawn Principality. The expressions of the 9 families in the Kisi territory grew solemn. They exchanged glances, seemingly discussing something privately through a hidden communication method. After a while, the Naruto family asked, "Then how can you guarantee that the Dawn Principality will not invade the Kisi territory?" "We can sign a trade contract, initiate trade, promote exchanges, and strengthen cooperation. As long as we have more common interests, wouldn't a war mean the Dawn Principality would be harming itself?" Brent replied. "Binding common interests? Then when the Dawn Principality goes to war with others, will it also drag our Chiss territory into the conflict?" The Cipra family sneered. The fact that the Principality of Dawn has the technology to enter and exit chaos does not mean that others possess it. And of course, the Principality of Dawn will certainly not hand over this technology to our enemies, right? Lieutenant General Brent said thoughtfully, deliberately emphasizing the words, "our enemy." End of chapter.